Ready? 200. I'm going to call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners meeting this September 15, 2020 at 5 o'clock p.m. I'm going to ask everyone if they would please rise for the invocation given by Commissioner Rhodes and please administer the pledge of allegiance.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to come together this evening and discussing the business of our lovely county. Please be with us this evening and help us to do your will. Thank you for our many blessings that we have. And please be with all of our local, state, and federal leaders at this time, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is down to item 4, which is agenda approval. Is there any additions or corrections to the agenda matter?
Yes, there's one correction, Mr. Chairman. Under new business number 2, staff has requested that this item be removed from the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve with a noted change.
We have a motion to approve from Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette, to approve the agenda with the noted change of reading item number 2 under new business. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And we have our agenda. Next item is consideration to approve the September 1st, 2020 regular commissioner meeting minutes. I was not there, so I'll leave it to the board to see if any additions or corrections to these minutes. If not, then a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the minutes as read, as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And the minutes are approved. Welcome our public hearing tonight for this meeting. Encourage comments to be 1 to 2 minutes on the items of the agenda, so that as we get to an agenda item, everyone will have a chance to speak or like to speak to the agenda item. All our documents are on our clerk's website, our county website, and then the clerk's office. Hope you got a chance to review our agenda, and if you are here for a particular agenda item, that you're prepared to join the discussion tonight at the appropriate time. With that, we'll go to our old business. We have 3 items of old business. The first item is a discussion item. Discussion of COVID-19 plan for Magic Farm Pumpkin Patch event to be held October 1st through November 15th.
Hello again. How are y'all?
Hello. If you're going to give us an update on what procedures you're going to follow.
Yes, sir. So I'm hoping Miss Stephanie was able to include the plan that we've made. And you guys have had a chance to review that. Did everyone take a look? If you have any questions, we're going to cut down on a couple of other things that we normally do just because they have lines associated with them. And we feel if we can get rid of that, everything else will run extremely smoothly. You know, we are spread out outdoors. I don't think it's really any different than my girls playing travel ball.
More events, the better things we can do right now to return some normalcy in our community as well. I guess I'll just ask if the board has any questions or follow up on the items that you've shared with us.
No, yeah, a little concerned with the playground part of it, how you social distance and staying together and over on that. Yes.
Sure, it's a great question. I can only, I guess, take from what I've seen, you know, in the county already. There's not any specific rules in place or CDC guidelines that I've been able to find that's matched specifically to a farm that does what we do. So for a great example is the rec department. Both my girls play travel ball. I'm headed to one's game right as soon as I leave here. I've seen the playgrounds open. I believe the rec department is sanitizing those at periodic, you know, points throughout the day when there's tournaments and things like that. So we would follow those same guidelines. I also did talk with our waste management folks, because we bring in porta potties every year, and we're gonna get additional hand washing stations on top of the hand sanitizer that we've always had around. Because we have animals, and we understand kids are playing in the dirt, and there's hay, and so we've provided those things anyways. We're just gonna double up on all of that and put those around periodically.
Yeah,
So,
well, a simple way to probably minimize some of the issue there is if you have the hand sanitizer as they enter the playground area, you require that each little dab.
Correct.
If they touch the items, it's less likely they're going to convey any kind of.
I have a great friend here, and if you want to ask her some questions, we have hand sanitizer everywhere anyways, just like I said, because we're outside. So we're going to double up on that, double up on the hand washing stations instead of just having those at the restrooms. The hayride usually generates a line, so we're going to get rid of that. Our corn pit area is very kind of closed in, so we're not going to do that this year. But the corn maze is big enough. You know, the pumpkin patch is where the pumpkins are actually growing is big enough. You know, the slide is always, and we don't hold people in line. They go in and do what they do. There's no set time for people to stand in lines and do anything. So it's always been, even our eating area, we have big wire spools with hay bales. Those have always been 6 feet apart just because of room. I mean, it's, you know, so this year we're going to encourage people to bring in their own food still, you know, and all that stuff.
Well, the
So
key of this times is we just practice the simple things, wear masks at the time.
Correct.
wash your hands. We can mitigate a lot of what's happening.
I agree, and we'll have those signs in place as well. We've been working with Allie at Edwards Graphics, so she's working on some stuff to, you know, let people know that we encourage masks and things like that.
Thank you for being intentional. Is there any other questions or thoughts? Okay. We appreciate there's no action for us. You've already approved the program. Just want to do that later.
Okay,
So thank you so much.
all right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Have a good time. Enjoy. Item number 2 under old business, consideration to approve the second reading to amend Appendix C, Article 3, Section 3.3, accessory buildings in residential districts, and Article 6, Section 623, accessory structures of the Code of Ordinances of Effingham County. It's a second reading. I don't know if we really need to have any conversation. I'll just see if there's a motion for a second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. We have the second reading to approve the first reading to amend Article 3, Section 3.17. This is excavation, mining, pond, and fields of land and/or state, federal jurisdictional waters and wetlands of the Code of Ordinances of Effingham County. We have a motion to approve second reading.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Floyd to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And the second reading is approved. Item number 4, the old business. The planning board recommends denying the application by Current Company LLC as agent for Old Pines LLC to rezone 741.60 total acres located off Old Augusta Road from AR1, R1 to I1 heavy industrial. This is map number 465, parcel number 6, and map number 477, parcel number 15 from the 15th district.
Okay, Charlie George, County Engineer. Just going to give some of the background for the record. On July 27, 2020, an application was submitted to the Planning Board by Old Pines LLC for rezoning the 741.6 acres to I-1 heavy industrial, 2 parcels, parcel number 15, map number 477, currently zoned AR1, and parcel number 6, map number 465, currently zoned R1, bounded by Old Augusta Road and Chimney Road. The county staff at that time recommended approval of their rezoning request to the Planning Board with about 9 stipulations. And I'm not going to go through all those because they were read into the record before. During the public hearing, numerous comments were heard from citizens in attendance in opposition to the rezoning in regards to, but not limited to, traffic, noise, lights, use of the property, concerns of devaluation of residential property, etc. After the public hearing comments were heard, the Planning Board voted to deny the rezoning application. At the August 18, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting, county staff presented the rezoning application to the commissioners with staff recommendations of approval and the planning board's recommendation for denial. After deliberation by the commissioners and comments received from the public, commissioners voted to table the application to the September 15, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting today, with instructions to the county staff to review the application and the comments received during the meeting to develop conditions to the application for consideration by the board. In summary, at the direction of the Board of Commissioners of Effingham County at the August 18, 2020 meeting, and based on comments presented by the citizens of Effingham County at that meeting, the county staff has developed specific conditions to be presented to the Board of Commissioners for their consideration. And again, just as a matter of record, the official code of Effingham County, Georgia, Appendix C, zoning Article 3.7A.1 states, in deciding any application for an amendment to the zoning classification of a parcel or property or to the zoning map, the Board of Commissioners may, on their own motion or upon the recommendation of the planning board or the zoning administrator, grant the application subject to certain conditions deemed necessary by the board to promote and protect the health, safety, morality, and welfare of the county and to further the purposes of this ordinance. Such provisions shall be imposed for the benefit of the community to prevent or lessen any negative impact expected to result from the zoning reclassification or zoning map amendment. The Article 3.7A.2 also states conditions that may be adopted include, but are not limited to, buffers, preservation of existing vegetation and tree cover, maximum density and/or number of lots, minimum lot setbacks, restrictions, and property use restrictions. Such restrictions shall be binding upon the applicant and any successors entitled. As stated above, the staff recommends the following conditions to be considered based on the comments and concerns presented by the citizens at the public hearing held on August 18th and the Board of Commissioners meeting held on September 1st. Item number 1 was traffic. The condition is there shall be no entrance or exit from the property being rezoned onto Chimney Road. Only pedestrian vehicles are allowed to use Goshen Road extension for entering or exiting the facility. The entrance to the facility from Goshen Road is to be designed to prevent access of all trucks, including but not limited to delivery trucks, box trucks, container trucks, and trucks pulling tractor trailers. Emergency vehicles shall be allowed to enter and exit the property from Goshen Road extension. A traffic study shall be submitted during the development plan review process pursuant to Effingham's County traffic study requirements. All trucks serving the business in the development shall comply with the official code of Effingham County, Georgia, Chapter 74, Section 74-8, designated truck routes. Number 2, safety. The truck entrance to the property shall be located on Old Augusta Road, a dedicated 12-foot wide paved entrance lane for purposes of truck staging and queuing shall be located within the property boundary lines. No trucks or any other vehicles are allowed to queue on Old Augusta Road. Security fencing shall be installed on the perimeter of each truck court. Visual. Buildings on the property are to have a building height restriction consisting of a maximum height no greater than 50 feet above the finished floor elevation. A 300-foot buffer consisting of a 250-foot natural buffer with a 50-foot wide by 12-foot high earthen berm with aegiagnus vegetation on the property bordering on Chimney Road. The property owner / applicant and its successors and assigns shall perpetually maintain the earthen berm and vegetation. Maintenance of the buffer must comply with the County Code Appendix C, Article 3, Paragraph 3.4, regarding understory foliage and installation of trees where they do not presently exist. Buildings on the north side of the property are to be oriented such that the loading dock doors do not face Chimney Road. Noise. Facility operations shall be in compliance with the official code of Effingham County, Georgia, Chapter 30, Article 1, Section 30-36 and Section 30-37, with maximum decibel levels between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., not in excess of 70 decibels as measured at the outwardmost edge of the required 30-foot buffer on Chimney Road. 70 decibels is the specified limits designated for commercial business, 60 for residential. In between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., the decibel levels at the outward edge of the 300-foot buffer shall not exceed 60 decibels. Again, that's the limit for residential. The property owner applicant shall perform a noise attenuation and abatement study during the design development phase to validate the effectiveness of the 30-foot vegetative buffer and berm system proposed by the property owner/applicant to attenuate noises to the above specified limit. Study shall be provided to Effingham County's Director of Development Services for approval during the design review process. Lighting. Overhead lighting shall be in accordance with the official code of Effingham County, Georgia, Article 5.12.4.4. Direct glare from incandescent exposed lighting shall not be visible from adjoining streets or properties. All exterior lighting is to be downward facing and shielded. All exterior lighting shall be attached to sides of buildings or pole-mounted lights that do not exceed 26 feet in height. The property owner applicant shall provide a photometric plan with a design review application to verify the light levels generated from the development at the outwardmost edge of the required 300-foot buffer do not exceed 0.01 foot candles, which is the equivalent of the illumination of a full moon. Uses. The rezoning of the property is conditioned on the property being used for warehousing or the permitted uses listed in the official code of Effingham County, Georgia, Article 5.12.1, light industrial. No other uses listed in the official code of Effingham County, Georgia, Article 5.12.1a, heavy industrial, shall be allowed. Again, let me just rephrase that or restate that no other uses listed in the heavy industrial shall be allowed. Signage. All traffic directional signage shall be in accordance with the official code of Effingham County, Georgia, Chapter 62, Article 2, Section 62.33, Appendix C, Article 3, Paragraph 3.38, and roadway signage shall be limited to placement on Old Augusta Road only. Signage shall indicate that truck traffic from the facility shall use designated truck route, Old Augusta Road only. A monument-type sign on Old Augusta Road identifying the facility is allowed, but is to be submitted to Effingham County Development Services for approval and recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Design. Site development plans must comply with Effingham County Water Resources Protection Ordinance and the Stormwater Management Local Design Manual in Chapter 34, Flood Damage Prevention. All wetland impacts must be approved and permitted by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and approved jurisdictional determination must be submitted during the development plan review process. A site plan must be submitted prior to construction showing the final layout of all buildings and roads and the distance from all buildings to neighboring properties. Failure to comply with any of these conditions for approval of the subject property at any time may result in the following. A, the issuance of a stop work order, the issuance of a cease and desist order, the denial or revocations of a building permit, the denial or revocation of a certificate of occupancy, the denial of any other permit, license, or approval to any developer, owner, leasee, or user of the subject property, the revocation of any other permit, license, or approval from any developer, owner, lessee, or user of property, the revocation of any concurrency, or B, the revocation of the official map amendment, conditional use, requested use, and any other zoning approval, and or C, requirement of the development to conform with the standards found in the Code of Effingham County at the time of the finding of noncompliance, or the addition or modification of conditions reasonably related to failure to comply with the existing conditions of approval and or referral to code enforcement. Conditions enumerated above are in addition to all other applicable requirements found in the official code of Effingham County, Georgia, state and federal laws. As another note, a meeting was held on Thursday, September 10th with county staff and representatives from Silverwood Plantation and Ridgecrest subdivisions to inform them of the conditions that were developed. one other thing I want to mention, there was some conversation at the last meeting about GPA's gate operations. We reached out to Georgia Port Authority and got their official gate operations. And this is from Stacy Watson, who is Director of Industrial Development. Our truck gates are open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. On Saturday, the gates are open from 8 a.m. to noon and 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. These are the only times trucks are allowed to enter or exit the Garden City facility. They do work shifts on a 24-hour basis, but as mentioned, truck gates are only open for the times specified above. So hopefully that gives some clarification on that. The alternatives for the commission to consider: remove the conditions that were previously recommended to the board on August 18th and accept the staff's recommendations of the new conditions presented tonight. Number 2, keep the recommendations from the staff previously presented on August 18th and reject the new recommendations as presented. Number 3, reject the previous recommendations of conditions and reject the new recommendations presented today. Staff recommends approve alternate 1. That's it.
As a point of order, these conditions, whether the commission, if the commission were to move forward and approve, they have to be accepted by the applicant. I think I see the applicant here tonight. Would someone like to let me know if you have reviewed these conditions and they would be acceptable should the board move forward with a positive vote?
Yes, good evening. Chad Zittrow with Kernan Company, here representing Old Pines Development and Old Augusta Land Company. We have reviewed the conditions and are in agreement with everything that has been addressed. In addition, as clarification, I think some of the Elaeagnus planting, there's an evergreen species of Elaeagnus, which is Elaeagnus pungent, and that is what we're proposing for that, so it is evergreen.
I'm going to get you to hold that. We may have some questions from the commission when we start discussing the item.
But yes, we
Make sure that you accepted the conditions.
We officially accept the conditions that have been proposed.
Very good. What we're going to do tonight is in appreciation of those who have come. We said the last time, because we're adding some new conditions, we asked our staff to review and look at conditions that might mitigate possible concerns that you lifted up, that we'd open up a public hearing again, a brief public hearing to let you hear those conditions, respond to those conditions, and if there are any new concerns that have not been lifted up. So I hope tonight I want to try to limit this public hearing to 20 minutes, 10 minutes for each side, because we don't want to review the several dozen conditions we already had. The board has had that. They've been studying and praying over, researching that, and had their own internal discussions with themselves and staff. So it will help us. So I'm not going to cut anybody off tonight, but I'm asking you to use your time, both sides, to address the conditions and any questions or any new concerns that you want to lift up. Because at the end of that time, I will call for into the public hearing. If the discussion is board, 5 minutes will be beneficial. Or so they will extend that, but help us keep this moving by keeping on task to help you regulate these conditions and new concerns. Okay? So with that, I'm going to open it up to for the 10 minutes to begin. For those who will want to speak against this, with questions or comments on the conditions or any new concerns. State your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Jim Arns. I live at 363 Chimney Road.
Yes, sir.
I just have some comments about this application. I was listening carefully what the gentleman had to say. I like to hear some of the things that he did have to say. One question I do have, though, is he mentioned something about a buffer. I'm not real crazy about looking out my window into a buffer. I've seen some in some places, you know, that are maintained and look nice, but then I've seen others in other locations that aren't so nice. What I would like to see is the natural tree buffer remain, the natural forest. You don't cut the trees down, just let it grow wild like it was. And as you already mentioned, driveways coming off Augusta Road only, not off Chimney Road and not off Goshen Road. I'm not in favor of the traffic coming off of Goshen Road.
It will not.
You know, we all know what the traffic's like already.
Rejected, but if it was approved tonight, there would be no traffic.
Okay, all right.
Proposed now.
The lights, you already addressed the lights, down lights, so we're not, we don't want to look out there and have big spotlights shining into our property. And another comment I had, and he mentioned light industrial. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but my notes I wrote shipping and receiving only, no manufacturing. No manufacturing of any kind, shipping and receiving only.
With light industrial, does it include manufacturing? Light industrial is more of an assemblage.
So no smokestacks, right?
Absolutely no smokestacks.
Smokestacks can only be under heavy industrial.
Yeah.
So that, I'm just clarifying, and not staff, correct me if I'm wrong, there could be some assemblage. So like say you have bicycles and you set the wheels in and the bars, they could assemble that inside the buildings. There'd be no machinery and smokestacks and furnaces and those kind of things.
Okay. Those are my only comments. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify one thing for the record now, that there would be regular car and truck traffic going to Goshen Road Extension, but not Goshen Road. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
There would be large, big truck, tractor, trailer traffic on Goshen Road Extension. I just want to be
Right.
clear for the record on
It's
that.
going from Goshen, not Goshen Road,
That's right.
but Goshen Extension to 21, that would be only, no delivery trucks. It's going to be people going to lunch, coming up work, and those types of
I
things.
just wanted to make it clear for the gentleman that was just up here.
Yeah, but Charles George County Engineer again, basically, Goshen Extension doesn't have any trucks at all except an emergency vehicle truck. Whatever's going down Goshen now that services those existing facilities is allowed to do that. But nothing is going to be entering Goshen, this development from Goshen Extension except personal vehicles and emergency services.
How will we prevent that? What measures?
It's, that access is going to be designed that way, and we'll check that in the development review.
I mean, how would you design that and still be able to allow a huge fire truck as well?
It's about the width of the road, the height restrictions, those kind of things. It just, we'd have to work that out. But we can't limit it to not letting emergency get in there just because it'd take too long to get them around on Old Augusta. So that's just something we'll have to work out in the development process.
And one way to eliminate that is that our current truck ordinance makes an exemption for emergency vehicles. And for deliveries locally. That would be outside of the gate of this facility. So basically, any truck, and this would have to be enforced by the sheriff's office like they do the truck ordinance, any truck that does not meet those criteria, and it's the same thing for Chimney Road, that they would be subject to the penalties associated with our current truck ordinance. So that's effectively being able to call the sheriff's office and have them respond to this rather than have the more limited resources of our code enforcement, I think is the better route to go here. Because if you have situations where folks begin to use Chimney Road, it is only a matter of time before they get the complaint goes through the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office takes appropriate action.
Good evening. I'm Mitch Berger. I live in Silverwood. I'm the vice president of the HOA. I'd like to thank Tim and his staff for meeting with us on September 10th, as Charlie said. While we heard everything that Charlie read at the meeting just tonight to you gentlemen, I took the time Friday to send an email to Tim and hopefully to all the commissioners. That was the intent, for you all to receive an email. Basically to say that the HOA and the residents of Silverwood, not complete as a whole, not unanimous, but 92% of the residences that we ran a survey of want no rezoning of this property. We want to keep it as it is and have it remain as it is. I also sent an attachment to you called Storing Harm and the Health of Communities, Impacts of Goods Movement in Warehousing. Now, this article was written in 2012, and it's primarily about California and the Long Beach ports. However, it has some very interesting information in it about particulate pollution, which comes from a lot of diesel trucking in a particular area, especially primarily written around warehousing. It calls these areas diesel death zones, and there is an increase from particulate pollution from these areas that causes major health problems, cardiovascular problems, cancer, asthma, decreased lung function. Hopefully you had a chance to review that yourself. I won't go into all the details of that. The other thing that it identified was that the specific statement is that community organizations active in the impact project, which was the attachment that I sent to you, have often called for 1,500 foot buffers, not the 300 foot buffer that they proposed, because of this particulate pollution and the impact that it has on residences. And as you know, there's 450 to approximately 500 houses and along this area across Chimney Road into Ridgecrest, Mill Creek, Silverwood, and other houses that are along there. So there's a lot of residential homes in that area. The other thing in the letter that I identified is the comprehensive plan that each of you signed off on, which is dated 2020 to 2040. And on page 40 of that, it specifically identifies residential zone property, that the predominant use of land within the residential category is for single-family and multifamily dwelling units, organized into general categories of net densities. This land use is protected from encroachment of industrial or other uses capable of adversely affecting the residential character. That's what we're concerned about as residences of this area, the pollution and the residential character of this area, and we believe it should be protected. So as I said, we ran a survey of our community. We had a 92% population against rezoning of this area. So I leave you with that, and I think maybe Pat has some other things that he might want to mention. I'm not sure, but he's our president.
Mitch, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, sir.
Along Chimney Road, do you have any idea the percentage there that oppose it as opposed to?
I wish I had that information, Roger. We could get it for you because we identified the specific, we asked everybody based off the lot that they live at and who the owner is.
Not that, you know, everybody doesn't have to say that they're impacted, but I think the ones along Chimney are the most impacted.
They're certainly looking at it.
Right.
And then, of course, I don't know if you're familiar with how Silverwood is laid out, but Cypress Drive, when you immediately go into that residence, turns right and basically parallels Chimney Road. So there's houses right behind the Chimney Road residences that backs up to those homes. And then on the other side of Cypress, there's a whole line of road of homes that go all the way down to our second gate, which is basically where Chimney Road does a little joggle. Okay.
Just a quick question too. You said 92% of those responding to the survey?
92% of those responding were against.
So what was the percentage of responders to the community?
Approximately 30%.
30%. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Just for point of clarity, I'm noting that when commissioners ask questions and make comments, I'm giving additional time, so we'll make sure you have a full opportunity to express. We're not going to take your time from you, okay?
Thank you.
92% of 30 people.
Well, it's about 27% to be the, if you did assuming it's a good sample, you have 27% of the community that you can safely.
How many total in the community? Civil, how many total?
263 homes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi.
State your name, please.
Mike Lisi, I live on Chimney Road. I was one of the ones that voted no. I am directly across from that. I do acknowledge all the stipulations that have been said. This morning, I tried to take a picture, and you guys can have these. I tried to take pictures of what it looks like in response to a comment that was made at the last meeting that the lights at this facility would not be any worse than the street lights or floodlights that we have. There are no street lights in front of my house. I have, all you can see is what's circled is lampposts that are on dusk to dawn timers. Any light I have on my house is a dusk to dawn timer. It is very dark. I tried to take pictures last night and it was too dark to even bother. So I took these shortly after I put my daughter on the bus. This rezoning would not, I feel, benefit the community in a good way at all. Personally, I have a child with asthma, and hearing those other statistics are worrisome. He's spent time in the hospital for it. We don't want to visit that again. We've moved to this area a little over, well, less than 3 years ago, trying to rebuild our life from a lot of things that got lost. Financially, we lost a lot, and we're trying to rebuild, and this would take a financial hit on me personally, because no one's going to want to come in. Right across the street from a warehouse. The vegetation, although natural, is sparse at that. I can see very far from my front porch, and I know we sit back a little bit, but not far. So that 300 feet or the 250 feet, come wintertime, is going to be even more sparse and even less doing its job of being a buffer. So, but I just wanted to add those. If anyone wants these, they can have them. But
But you also have a 12-foot buffer behind that also.
behind, well, the 12, there's going to be the 12-foot.
You got 250 feet.
Right.
Behind that, you don't have a 12-foot out of dirt all the way behind it.
Still be looking at the building 50 feet away.
Yeah, I'm still going to, yeah, it's only going to be a 12-foot berm, and if the building sits at 50 feet, I'm still going to be able to see that building over top of that. That little bit is not going to, I'm 6 foot tall. I'm 6 foot tall, so shortly, a little bit in the middle of that is where that berm is going to be. And 50 feet is probably higher than the ceiling. So that's,
Lights are not, don't be up 50 feet high.
I understand the lights will not be, but if they're going to be no brighter than a full moon, I worked at UPS for 5.5 years in Roanoke, Virginia on the Midnight Hub. I can tell you they had downward facing lights, and those lights were extremely bright. It didn't make a difference. They're so heavy duty that it takes 5 minutes just for them to heat up and come to temperature. If you turn them off and turn them back on, you have to re-wait. So it is, saying it and seeing it are two different things. We live on a nice dark road. Silverwood doesn't have street lights. We want to keep it that way. We want to keep our nice little community, and we're going to lose it. There's warehouses all over Effingham County now.
Okay. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Because I'm sure, I would hope the applicant would be willing to address the sidewalk and the lights as the conditions to be approved. We've got a couple more minutes, so make sure your comments are strategic.
I'll be quick. My name is James Saturday. I live in Silverwood. Been there 23 years. One thing, and I've been at every meeting, I believe, one thing I haven't heard addressed was what was going to be warehouse there. Is there any kind of restriction? Because we all see on the news, I think there was recently one in Dallas where there was a fire and the fire department couldn't even put it out because they didn't have the proper stuff. So is there any kind of restriction as to what will be stored in these warehouses? That's a concern of mine. And then we all saw what happened in the warehouse that caught fire over in Beirut. I wouldn't want to live within 4,000 feet of that. I mean, it leveled a large part of that city. So,
Interesting restriction on any kind of hazardous type material that might cause an issue.
exact, is that part of, is that part of the plan? I mean, we've heard a lot of,
Maybe staff or someone can help us with that. You said that when we heavy industrial,
and even,
the question is there anything that's in the warehouse? Is there anything that would, I think we have this question about all warehouses, not just this project, but all warehouses.
Storage of hazardous material is specifically listed under the heavy industrial use. So while it can be warehouse, hazardous material would be under the heavy industrial use, which would not be included in this. The only heavy industrial use would be the warehouse, none of the other items on the list.
So for clarification right here, what you're saying is that the storage of any hazardous waste or contaminated is only allowed under heavy industrial.
okay.
This particular condition eliminates all the heavy industrial uses.
Okay, it's hazardous material, also material when it's on fire, the toxics that comes off of that when it burns. It gives off, and they have to evacuate areas like in, I think it was Dallas and Los Angeles or something like that. You know, in a fire, it may not be hazardous when it's stored, but when it catches on fire, it's very toxic. And I heard somebody say sugar dust, you know, which we're all aware of what happened, whatever, about 12 years ago. And who knew? So I'm just wondering if, you know, people are looking, if you are looking into that, what's going to be in these warehouses? How dangerous is that going to be to the people living in the communities that's been up here? Like I said, 400 feet sounds pretty good, but some of the things you see on TV, and I wouldn't want to be within 4,000 feet of it. So, you know, I appreciate y'all really taking a look at that, because that's a concern that I have.
It's a good concern, and it sounds like the staff is looking into that and reviewing that. Thank you.
Good evening once again, Mr. Chairman. Wade Brett, Silverwood Plantation. We have spent a whole lot of time and effort on a lot of people's part here trying to square the circle. We've had a comprehensive plan. We've had a planning board that has unanimously rejected this. The comprehensive plan is in opposition to this. The community is in opposition we've seen that 92% roughly mirrored in the meetings that we've had here. It has been wildly unpopular, obviously. From a practices standpoint, I think that it's clear that heavy industrial use or even light industrial use right next to a residential area wouldn't really meet that criteria. So typically there is a zoning process that goes from residential to higher density residential to business, commercial, and then to the industrial use. So here we are getting ready to put a bunch of trucks right in the middle of our neighborhood with a distribution center that, although the ports may limit their operations somewhat, they still do have gates that operate on the weekends and evenings. The information I've received from the security staff, the police department at the Georgia Port Authority contradict what the economic development folks are saying. They say it's unusual because of the overtime rates that the longshoremen get for doing work on nights and weekends, but when they're really busy, they work it. So, you know, if this really is the case, then maybe, you know, the applicant would say, hey, look, we won't have any more trucks in here after 6 o'clock at night. So that might be one way to deal with that. It does put our property values at risk. it's hard to sit here and make the case that have an industrial park with heavy industry right next to your home with the light, the noise, the traffic, the diesel exhaust is going to add value. It's not. I don't know about you, but many times I wake up with the full moon shining in my face and I can't sleep at night. So for those folks along Chimney Road or even along the interior, some of the interior streets of Silverwood, as well as the communities there at Ridgecrest and Mill Creek, they're going to be impacted by this as well. We obviously are going to have some traffic issues with the safety issues that are concurrent with all the traffic. So my ask of you as a commission is to vote no on this. It's wildly unpopular. We don't think it's beneficial to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. All right, we're going to take one more and we're going to close that side and get some responses from the other side.
Good evening, I'm Anissa Grantham, 621 Chimney Road. I am in the curve of Chimney Road, the last house in Silverwood, 350 feet from where the edge of the last building will be. I would like to bring to your attention, I sent an email, I believe it was on Friday, to all of you gentlemen regarding three research studies that discussed the negative impact industrial activity has on mental health. I bring that to your attention. I am a licensed professional counselor. I've worked in the field of addiction for 30 years and have worked as a counselor for more than 26. As a property owner, we can talk about the property values, but I think what's really important right now, honestly, is being able to understand how, and I think it was really brought up to me at the end of last meeting when there were a lot of folks who became very disruptive at the end of the meeting, just understanding how we could be voted against as voters here in the community. Understanding that there's chronic stress involved right now, especially with COVID going on. We would have the feelings of personal powerlessness. That's honestly what this is all about. We would be reminded on a daily basis. Being homeowners and having our property, understanding that there's perceived power, that we have control over what goes on in our world. Across the street from my house, I have beautiful property that doesn't belong to me. Would I love for that to stay? Sure, but I know that in this county there's going to be development. The chronic stress, high anxiety, I think again that was demonstrated here. The anxiety that has been felt by several of those in the community since all of this started. The research studies identified increased depression, increased anxiety, increased feelings of personal powerlessness. Understanding that every single day when we pass, I know for me, when I pass by that warehouse and those entrances, that I will be reminded of the lack of power that I have, the lack of voice that I had in speaking to my county commissioners, those that I voted for. The understanding that all the years that I have put into this county really has no value at all. When the people that we put our trust in are not following through with what we are asking you to simply do. Listen to what we are asking you to do. We have been very clear with what our county wants, what our residents want. These are three well-established communities on Chimney Road. 25 plus years, these residential neighborhoods have been there. And understanding the chronic stress that is involved with walking outside every single day to the noise, to the trucks. You know, you're going to hear from those in favor who live on 200 acres, who aren't going to have 300 feet or 400 feet. They're going to have 200 acres. They're not going to be concerned about what we on Chimney Road and the other residences, what we are going to be hearing and seeing on a daily basis. I really think, again, just to understand where we're coming from and the anxiety that this is really bringing up, the depression. Again, just thinking of, where am I going to be in a year? Where am I going to be in a year? I have a business, I have a home, you know, where.
How about if you had 2,000 houses in there instead of warehouses, 2,000 people living there?
I could handle that a heck of a lot more, because I can handle, you know, people are doable. You can work with people and personalities. You can't work with trucks, you can't work with concrete, you can't work with developers who are all that's about is money. It's all about money. And at least with people in this community, we are investing. Those people are investing in our community, not in, you know,
So
developers.
I'd have 2,000 homes in there.
I'd be all right with a school going in. I'd be all right with a recreation. I'd be all right with something other than a warehouse. I know that it has to be developed, but we don't want a warehouse there. Not a warehouse, not heavy industrial.
I want to ask you, your comments are excellent, really good points that you made, and I appreciate it for the board tonight. There'll be an opportunity for the board to ask questions of constituents or staff or whatever when it comes to our discussion. This is your time to be heard. Appreciate it. I'm going to move now to the applicant, or you want to speak to the board that would like to address some of the questions and these conditions that have been lifted up.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, does that mean we can't speak? I take the time.
I think we've heard everything we need to hear so far. This is just an additional hearing on these conditions and additional concerns.
I would like to speak on the conditions when he's done, if I may, please address.
We're going to hear from the other side, and then we're going to go to the board. They may have questions for folks out there. We're going to move this along.
All right, good evening. Chad Zerrell with Kernan Company here, again representing Old Pines and Old Augusta Land Company. Just to go through a few of the items that are in these restrictions. One of the things that was brought up is in regards to the buffer and the plantings that were going on, you know, along there. Wanted to confirm that that is a 250-foot natural buffer, which is the existing vegetation to remain, and then the 12-foot high 50-foot berm that will be planted with the Elaeagnus pungent, which is an evergreen species.
I've got a question on the Elaeagnus species. The one that I looked at before that we were going to use for a vegetative buffer with a solar farm, that topped out around 20 feet. I mean, is that the same here with?
This grows approximately 3 feet a year. The specs I've looked at are like 12 to 15 feet, but it would be in addition to 8 feet.
Okay.
Correct. On top of the 12-foot berm. In addition, you know, several things that we've worked on throughout this process have been orienting the doors, the dock doors, so that they do not face Chimney Road. We feel as though that is very important. You know, the buffers that we have do 3 things. One, the light and noise that have been identified with the 26-foot reduction. These trees are 70 to 80 foot tall in regards to along Chimney Road. So you've got that taking out the top tree canopy. We've talked about the berm below. The other thing they accomplish is the reduction in pollution. Pollution keeps being brought up. Keep in mind, these buffers are 148 acres of our 748 acre development. In addition to that, we've got approximately 150, 200 acres of wetlands. So you're looking at approximately 50% that's actually developed, not including the green space, parking areas, things of that nature. So in regards to pollution reduction, in regards to greenery to absorb the noise, in regards to the light protection along Chimney Road, we feel like this development, as it is proposed, enhances a lot of those items. In regards to the warehouse materials that are being stored, there are numerous restrictions in regards to what's allowed to be stored and different fire sprinkler requirements in regards to materials that are in place. It should be noted that we'll agree for all of our fire systems to be ESFR, which is the emergency response systems. That's what intended. That scope was currently in the market in regards to what's typically utilized. Other thing I wanted to bring up was in regards to the last meeting, there was a lot of information brought up in regards to what's legally enforceable. I think that's been addressed in regards to staff recommendation. We've also gotten a legal opinion in regards to that and feel like as staff has stated, all of these conditions based upon the county's ordinances are legally enforceable, and wanted to emphasize that as well. Other than that, that's all I have that wasn't presented at the previous meeting. Didn't want to go over and be redundant on any items, but we're glad to answer any questions you may have.
All right, we've had, I think, 30 minutes from the side of opposition. We've had about 5 minutes from the side of the applicant. Is anyone on the other side that would like to speak for this tonight? Looking for people speaking for. Speaking for.
How are you? I'm for it, yes, sir. Jeffrey Smith, I live on Chimney Road, and we are for it. I think everybody's done their, excuse me, their homework on the trucks going out on Old Augusta Road. That's what it was designed for years ago, and there's no truck traffic coming to Chimney Road, and I think the project will be a good project. There's no doors that'll be on Chimney Road. I think that it's all everybody's done their homework, and it'll be good for the community, good for jobs, and I think it's a plus. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking for this project tonight? Take about 5 more minutes.
Perry Mincy, live in Silverwood, Cypress Drive. I want to bring attention to this survey that was sent out. I didn't fill out my survey. There was only 30% of the people that responded of 270 or so homes. That means 190 didn't even respond. That's how important it is in Silverwood. They had it for 2 weeks and they didn't bother to respond to fill out an application. They sent to them, put it all in the wording saying that it was all detrimental to the community. Didn't give both sides of the story, but only one side. Didn't talk about all the traffic it's going to cause if they go to building houses out there, or all the crime that's going to be committed, or the extra policing it's going to take, or all the demand on services and all it's going to be for the county. Probably extra schools and everything else, but I just want to say, that survey is only 30% of 270 people, 270 homes. That's 80 people. Only 92% of those went with it. So that means about 8 or 10 of them didn't go with it. So there's people, and I didn't send mine in, I would have been for it too. So just want to say, thank you.
Anything else on the applicant, or anyone speaking forward?
My name's Marie Graham. I own the property at 625, 623 Chimney Road. I am the one that owns the 200 acres that they said it didn't really matter to, but I have a good bit of road frontage, and it does matter to me, and I don't particularly want a lot of traffic on Chimney Road, and they've made all the provisions, and they've done all their homework, and they've done everything that's been asked of them to pacify everything as far as the ordinances and everything. So I just want to kind of reiterate that we are in favor of it.
Did you say you lived on Chimney Road?
No, sir, my property is on Chimney Road.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
right. But we are in favor of it.
Ms. Graham. Anyone else, the applicant or the?
Marie.
This is speaking forward or now? Are you speaking forward?
Yes, my name is Scott Kay.
Speaking for or against?
I'm speaking to the conditions, for the conditions, but I'd like to address the board.
Come time on the other side.
Pardon me?
Let me hear from the other ones.
Okay.
And we'll see if there's any reason to have an additional hearing.
Yes, I think Wilson Burns, applicant, I think most of, everything's been addressed, and I don't want to go back over anything, but I did making a few notes when some of the speaking went on. There was a reference towards loss of home values on Chimney Road, and no one would want to would buy a home on Chimney Road after this has come to pass. Since the last meeting, up until tonight, there has been a home that closed on Chimney Road that people voiced their support for rezoning to industrial rather than seeing a potential of a residential go there in the future. And they closed that home at 499 Chimney Road at over full asking price. So I think the argument that no one's ever going to move to Chimney Road again is a little extreme. The other thing I'd like to, and you know, I think, you know, I've got some copies of some emails that we were copied on that I don't know if they went to staff or to commissioners from some other residences on Chimney Road besides Mr. Smith and Ms. Graham that voiced their support. The other thing I guess I hit on real quick is Mr. Britt referenced that I-1 has no place next to R1, but if we go to the ordinances of Effingham County, I-1 does have a place next to R1. It's stipulated by this board that when it goes next to R1, you have to have a 300-foot buffer. It doesn't say it can't go next to it. It just says that when you do, you have to put the proper buffer to protect residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Then we have about 10 minutes from one side and 30 from the other, so I'm going to close this public hearing. I'm going to recognize this last gentleman. If you have a couple of 2 minutes, if you want to make an additional, but please make it
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My concern is just the uses going forward. I know this is going to go forward. I do like some of the conditions that were brought forth tonight, but we don't know what's coming down the road and after this development sells. When he references their buffer, it's really your buffer because it's our ordinances. The second gentleman just said that requires the 300-foot when it abuts residential property, but that's already what triggers it to be heavy industrial by the creation of the 300-foot buffer. So by excluding any other uses, is that set up as a legal trap? I know you have the ability to do that legally, but is that the right way to do this and the safe way to do this? So you initiate these conditions, this gets approved, it sells in 5 years. Somebody wants to put manufacturing, which is a use by right in heavy industrial, since the buffer exists, they challenged the decision made today or the condition made today, and it's overturned and we're set to suffer. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I come back to the board about my previous comments about making this a conditional use, because the conditional use protects the residents for the life of the property and long after this board is gone. So I ask myself, what am I missing when I look at what a conditional use is? When I look at all these other board members, how does that not really make sense? It's a very simple way to apply it just when industrial development would butt residential. So all the rest of the industrial developments, which are probably 90+% of them, this wouldn't have anything to do with it or affect their development. But it would show that you care about the residents and it would protect it. So the last time we left and you had turned to one of the board members and said there's 2 options, and I said, well, there's a 3rd option, and you had made a comment, no, we can't do that because it's industrial. That is the whole point of doing it. So I'm kind of at a loss of how do we protect our neighborhood?
Let me address that so we can get the commissioners involved in their discussions tonight. And I'll let the attorney correct me if I say anything that I'll try to put words in his mouth. Okay? Anything can be challenged, even our ordinances as they are in the law. But it's our understanding after talking with our attorney that we are complying with our ordinance, and that is the legal arm that we have. And the conditional use would be no stronger, I believe, than what we're doing now, because we are permitted by our ordinances to put these conditions, and they follow the property, they follow the zoning, and there's no one that can do anything different. Is anything without any legal action, even then, I don't believe they will prevail. Now, that's just an opinion, they won't prevail. You don't know till you get to court and get a judge and a jury. But it is solid, this is within our ordinance to put these conditions, and these conditions are firm, that we follow the property and the zoning, if the board should.
I can't argue with what you're saying, but on the same token, if there's multiple paths and one path protects the neighbors and the residents better, then that would be your duty as elected to do that and benefit us, and it doesn't seem like you really want to go down that path. Because by making it a conditional use by any use within the I-2 when it butts residential, like I said, when you're gone, when the next person comes in, it's very clear, and the planning commission has ability to go back through everything and make changes. Like if you look at our conditional use definition, it's one page. If you look at Springfield's got an amazing 2-page conditional use. Now, I don't know if they use it, but it really gives them a lot of meat and potatoes to enforce, and that's what this commission should be doing. That's why you're here.
We heard that, and we appreciate that, but I'd love to start the discussions tonight. They can turn to the attorney for additional comments, but I think for myself, I'm confident that if they move forward, this ordinance is going to be just as enforceable and just as powerful as conditional use.
Well, it doesn't address the future with other uses, and I think...
It follows on, so it definitely addresses the future. The only way it could be changed, or these conditions, is a completely rezoning hearing, applicant to make a request to rezone it, the same processes at that time. It could not, if they were to approve it tonight, these conditions will be firm unless it goes through rezoning.
Then why does the special conditions use exist and so prevalent in all of our other zoning districts except for this zoning district?
We may look at that in the future as we look at our zoning,
but we need to look at a lot of our zoning in the future. We should be evaluating that.
I agree.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to get point of order here. I know we have other public hearings, but I'd like to do this discussion regarding the public hearing matter. That would be okay with not. Good. So we're going to close the public hearing and turn to our board to see if they have questions. They may want the constituent to come back or the applicant to come back, and they may want comments or questions. But I'm going to let you have your discussion now of what you've been heard, what you've heard and researched.
I'd like to hear from the other commissioners first.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go first. I'll just get right to it. I definitely, and I'll give my supporting facts or my supporting points after this, but I would much rather see this project here going in versus 2,000 homes as a residential development. All manufacturing and light industrial, I mean, that does not require, it's an environmental hit. I mean, we have businesses here now in this county that assemble things. Think about Edwards Interiors, that has no smokestack. I mean, that's folks getting paid decent wages and assembling materials. This is off the 4-lane state highway. Old Augusta is a truck route. Part of this development is next to a long-time current industrial park. The applicant has agreed to put a 12-foot dirt berm with the vegetated buffer on top of that to add an additional buffer, and which already has a natural buffer there. I think staff has done a good job in listening to the concerns. We are taking out heavy industrial. We're making this light industrial, so if there was some type of light manufacturing that would be assembling, we would still be allowed to do that. 50% of this property is not going to be used. There are wetlands there. There's around 150 acres of buffer there under this requirement. And there's some other things I have written down here, but I'm in favor of the current request with the conditions that staff has presented, and we have checked with legal counsel, and these conditions will stick legally.
I'll agree with 100%.
The only comment I want to make, and I've done this numerous times in these type hearings, is this, and it disappoints that I haven't heard this, but it boils down to property rights, personal property rights. This individual owns this piece of property, and he gets to decide what he wants to try to do. The citizen that said that they feel powerless, we've spent a tremendous amount of time hearing your concerns and trying to balance this. And I think our staff has gone above and beyond to try to work with the citizens. But the only way to control a piece of property is to own it. The fact that a group doesn't like it doesn't trump another individual's rights. And without going a whole bunch of that, it boils down to I support this project. I think it's much better than a bunch of homes, or there could be apartments there. People probably put 4,000 apartment units here with vertical there. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing I'll add. I've had folks live in Silverwood that have reached out to me by phone or email, and they're also in support of this project versus a residential project.
Commission, anyone want
Yeah.
questions or comments?
Few comments. We'd like to speak to some of the things that were brought up earlier about the pollution part of it, and I know that was done in 2012. I'm a trucking company, so I do have some expertise in this area. Everything after 2010 has new emission standards for trucks. So as we progress forward, there's less and less trucks on the roads, thankfully, that are older than 2010. So a lot of that data is going to change, over the years. So if this does go, I hope that offers a little bit of reassurance that it's not going to be like some polluted atmosphere all the time. And the emissions are so much stricter than old trucks. It's night and day. It really is a big difference. I'd also like to talk about the port for a second. We go to the port with my trucks. If you don't get there during hours, you don't get it. Period. They don't make exceptions for that. The only time you go in is for ship-side stuff. That's bringing things from the ship to the ground, and that's it. They don't operate on the port hours. There's no special time that you can go in and out. It just doesn't happen. I wish it did. Do more. After the last meeting we had with this, I didn't sleep very well. It was really, really on my heart, on my conscience, and on my mind in a big way, in a deep way. And having a hard time getting past a couple of things. And one of the things is the future use. I think that has a bearing. I think we've got to give that some weight. And it's a great point. That's data. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for data. And the future uses, it should have some weight. And also the homeowners along Chimney Road. How would I feel if I was one of those people? It makes it super difficult, to even think about what to do. What's the right thing to do? If I had my idea, if I was looking at a future use map today, without the knowledge of this plan, and this plan is a great plan, and I could benefit from this plan. It's wonderful. It's a great idea. It's a great location. But beside the homes, I'm having a hard time. If I had my ideal atmosphere with this, and I was looking at this map with a fresh pair of eyes, I would go residential on the one parcel and industrial along the Old Augusta Road. That's what it looks like to me. And if we did that, not up to me obviously, but if we did that, you would have residential on that side, not 2,000 homes, and you'd have industrial on the other side. Let the homes go out on Chimney Road and let the industrial egress on Old Augusta. That would be my dream plan, if you will. People should be mad at it, but things are going to happen. That would be the ideal thing for me. Just having a hard time with those two parts of it, to be honest with you. Having a hard time getting past that part of it.
As far as me, I was initially very concerned that 92% of the residents in Silverwood would support basically taking the rights of a property owner. So I'm glad that was clarified. Aside from that, I've been back and forth, and no, everybody has been heard. If you've sent an email, I've read it. I hope I responded. I've tried to respond. To address Mr. Burns mentioning that the county does allow for a 300-foot buffer. It does, but it also is to the responsibility of our board to determine whether it's appropriate or not. With all due respect to everyone that lives in Silverwood that aren't on Chimney Road and Ridgecrest and Mill Creek, I keep coming back to the folks right there on Chimney Road across. Our comp plan discusses transitional zoning. And what is that? We don't know. Our comp plan, I guess, is ill-prepared, but it's not the residents' fault. It's not the residents' fault. So at this point, I've got to really stand with the folks, and I'm going to make a motion to go with planning board recommendations and deny.
I'll second.
Motion to deny the applicant the rezoning. That's what the motion is.
He's making a motion to deny.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let it be read.
We have a
That
you have a motion to deny by Mr.
Still have time to think about it.
Okay. And did I hear a second? Second by Mr. Burdette. Okay. And then I want to make one point of clarification in the discussion or in the comments is that it has brought to light that we need to revisit and talk to our manager about our comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan that we're operating under now, I want you to understand, didn't come into effect till October of 2019. The 2015 plan actually showed this area that we've been operating for many years, but 15 it was reviewed, revised, and renewed. And it actually shows this area and complies with that this is a national trucking area, this is planned for industrial. It's very clear. It looks like in the comprehensive plan, just for our board's information, you understand that the CRC compared it to the zoning map, which should never have been put in there as the future use map. The zoning map is what you are right now. So right now, it shows our current zoning, and then it shows the future use as the same current zoning. But we've all said the year before, none of us expect this county to look the same. Future use plan is to kind of give a direction.
There are some slight differences in that, that's why I wasn't.
But the current map is it?
Yeah, the current and the future use. There are some differences in those two maps.
I can see it.
It's very minor, but it tells me, there was
But the future use map in 2015 that we were operating under up until 2019, up to 19, which had you bought your property or invested property in this area prior to October 2019, you could have done that under the the old comprehensive plan that really has guided us for years of where industrial and commercial and how we transition. So if you bought a property 3 years ago, it would not have been based on this current comprehensive plan. That's what I'm trying to suggest. And it had to be about property last year to say that would be attached. That's just a point of clarification on our comp plan. And we do need as a board to go back and replace that map with a map that really shows what the future use plans will be. It could be for 20 years, not 20. So that's just a point of clarification. But we do have a motion on the table.
Can I make one comment on my motion?
Sure.
I just want to clarify, in no way do I oppose any of this property being used as industrial. I have no problem with that appropriately. So I just wanted to clarify. I don't know if my motion, 740 plus acres, it's just a big bite to butt right up against these folks. Just want to clarify.
All right, very good. So the motion is to deny the applicant's request for rezoning. We have a second. I'll call for a question. Is there a question from the board? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Nay.
Aye.
All right, I'm going to get a roll call, make sure I get it right. If you just go around there and do what you get, yeah or no.
I oppose.
So you vote for motion, okay?
Opposed.
No. Mr. Kiefer's yes?
Yes.
Yes for the motion? Opposed, no. All right, for the record, we have 3 noes and 2 yays, so the motion is denied. So I'll recognize another motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1, to approve the request for rezoning and remove the conditions that were previously recommended to the board on August 18, 2020, and accept the staff's recommendation of the new conditions presented.
And I'll second that again.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Deloach and a second by Mr. Loper for alternative 1, which is to approve the application with the conditions that were placed by the staff at the first meeting. Okay, just make sure I understand. And then the new conditions as they are. Okay? We have a second. Any question? Question?
I just,
Any question? I'm going to go roll call vote so we can make sure we get it correct. Get your name to this motion.
I approve it. Aye.
approved.
Motion carries 3-2, and the applicant has his motion approved with these conditions. That concludes this part of our hearing. We're going to take a brief recess. The restroom, if you're here for this part of our hearing Can you decide to read it now?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. You need a motion on the second reading. You got
Thank you. We are missing a board member. Jim, could you somebody check and see the Roger? Make sure we didn't kill little ones. We're gonna have a motion to table this to the next There must be a black hole out here. I don't see anybody else, we might lose them all. We'll send the deputy next. Yeah, we actually, got that behind. No ridges going, so they can't be treated.
He's on, Queen.
All right, we're going to go back into regular session. We had one item we failed to address that because there were additional conditions placed. We're going to need a motion to move the second reading to our next meeting.
Motion to remove the second reading item, postponing to the next meeting.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to postpone the second reading to the next meeting, which will be
October the 6th.
24.
October 6th.
Oh, no, sorry. October 6, 2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And we will postpone that. We're going to move on all our business and go straight to our planning board items. And I apologize for the constituents here tonight. When item that took an extended amount of time, we'll try to move as rapidly as we can to give you an opportunity to address any concerns you have. So we're going to move to that. It is now 6:30. Planning board recommends item 1, approving an application by Patrick Patel, agent for Caroline Stalling, to rezone 0.17 acres out of 13.1 acres located at 1398 Old River Road, AR1 B2, map number 304, parcel number 27 in the 1st District. And I was thinking our staff to introduce it, and we'll try to be as brief as we can. If it becomes a conflict, we'll take more time to slow down, but to help out, we'll go fast.
This one is simple. As you can see from the plat in the upper part there, that square is being added to the existing convenience store to accommodate parking. And so because the zoning districts are different, we have to rezone that 1.7 acres to match the convenience store zoning in B2.
Okay. I'm going to switch up a little bit and ask if there's anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning tonight?
Just to get it recombined, right?
Are you going to be recommending?
The convenience stores exist, and this is just a problem.
Yeah.
Just to address the parking. I don't hear anyone speaking against it tonight, so you don't need to speak forward. I don't know that there's any opposition. There'll be board need to hear from our district. Okay. All right. You're good. I'm going to hear your discussion. That's okay. I see. Is there any discussion, questions on the board? No. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve with staff recommendation.
Second. A motion by Mr. Floyd. I think the first, second I heard was Mr. Loper. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. We'll move to the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of application by Patrick Patel, agent for Caroline Starling, to rezone .17 acres out of 13.1 acres located at 1398 Old Augusta Road from AR1 to D2, map number 304, parcel number 27, first district. Motion to approve second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading. Second.
Motion Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And it carries. We'll move to item 3 in public hearing. Planning board recommends approving an application by Robert O. Dietrich to rezone a 2-acre parcel and an adjacent 6.4 acre parcel located on US Highway 80, AR1 to D2, map number 329, parcel number 36 and 37 in the first district. Now staff brief us.
Yes, so the 2 parcels you see there with the arrow, those are the parcels that are proposed for rezoning. The parcel to the right of that has already been rezoned several years ago for an auto garage, but over the years, the junkyard has kind of grew into all the adjacent parcels. And at this time, Mr. Dietrich wishes to sell these, all 3 parcels, and the buyers want them to be all the same zoning district. So that's why we're pursuing this.
And once again, because we're letting on speak, as long as anyone tonight speaking in opposition to this application for zoning.
There is one more thing, that the planning board did recommend approval of the staff stipulations, but then when the county attorney reviewed them, he recommended just some work, just massage the wording a little bit and add it. I just want to read that one.
Yeah, read that wording to us.
Okay. So in the first stipulation, the junk operations, we had originally said junkyard operations must seize and lots must be cleared of vehicles as verified by code enforcement. And then the county attorney suggested that we add a 60-day timeline.
60-day timeline?
60-day limit.
To do that?
Yeah.
All right. Just point of clarification for me, is that going to mean the second reading's got to go to the next meeting?
Is the applicant okay with 60 days? Will you have the vehicles moved within 60 days?
Yeah, and the applicant come back.
I'm sure we can.
If the applicant, can you come to the mic, please, sir? Come to the mic. You can approach the mic. I'm sorry to inconvenience you. We'll make sure that everybody hears.
There's a lot of cars out there. I'll pass that.
Yeah, I wear hearing aids and I can't tell what y'all are saying.
So the question was.
But yeah, all of the vehicles have been moved.
Okay, if the already vehicles on the property, you're okay with having?
Most all of them.
You're okay with having them all removed within 60 days of us approving tonight if it's approved?
I sold the property about a year ago, and I didn't know that. I thought all this was industrial already. It was, that's what the man told me when I bought it 45 years ago. And I've been using it as a salvage yard for 40 years or so.
Yes, so there's only one question we really got for you, though. One question. Would you be agreeable to accept the condition that if the already junk cars on
I'm sorry.
Can you explain? Because you're closer.
Would you be would it be acceptable to you that as a condition for this rezoning that all of the junk cars would be removed within 60 days?
Oh, they already are.
So all vehicles are off the property?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's already sold all of them. He wasn't supposed to, but he did.
Tim, but ask if there's any on there, would you agree to this condition?
If there were any remaining on there, would you agree that they would be removed within 60 days?
Yes, but by the way, I sold it as a salvage yard.
So do you own it?
Yes, I owned it.
No, do you own it right now?
Yeah, I still do, but it's in contract.
Right.
And
so prior to rezoning, which would be prior to closing and transferring to the new owner, would you agree to that all vehicles would be removed within 60 days?
well, let me say this. I sold it as it was with all the vehicles on it. And they, in turn, have salvaged out a bunch of them, which I wouldn't have salvaged out.
Well,
but I still got 4 acres, 4.5 acres on this lot right next to it with the buildings on it that is already zoned CB.
Would they, is that property that he is going to continue on, is that part of this rezon?
Are you selling all 3 parcels?
Are you selling all of your parcels, all 3 parcels?
No, one part's already zoned. I zoned it 40 years ago.
I know, but are you selling that property?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It's all together, one piece.
So whoever the purchaser is, someone has to agree to remove all the vehicles or it cannot be rezoned with these conditions.
Yeah, they already removed from them areas. There are only very few that may still be in there over on the first 4.5 acres.
Thank you,
So
sir.
they need to be gone too.
They need to be gone too.
Yeah, well, they are good building, good vehicles, not junk. The ones they've got over here.
Is the purchaser here tonight?
Is he here?
Yeah.
No, he's in Maine, I believe. He's closing on the piece of property he's got up there.
Okay.
Well, what happens if we approve it with these conditions? I did hear you say that he agreed to the condition.
Correct.
Okay, so if the vehicles are not moved, what happens to this zoning? Does it go away? Huh?
The zoning would stay in its current status.
If the cars are not moved?
Because it's a condition. You revoke the...
We could revoke the zoning immediately. Okay, so we heard the gentleman say that we would have the cars removed, that he agreed to the condition.
Okay.
So, Attorney, are you good with that, Mr. Lee, with what you heard?
I'm good with that. It's going to require a second reading.
Correct. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So we'll address it again in the second reading, and you might want to get with the gentleman, make sure he understands what the condition. I think he does. He said he agreed to have them removed, but it would revoke this zoning. We revoke it if the cars were not removed. So you can help him understand that, okay?
Is it all just inoperable vehicles? Because if they're operable, I mean...
If any of them are, okay.
The new owners are not going to operate a salvage yard. They are trying to clear the property now so that they can do whatever it is, but they just need a business. What was the zoning, the B, whatever they request? Yes, that's what they requested, which is not a junkyard.
It's not a junkyard, it's not allowed to use it.
It will not be a junkyard, no. No. Okay, come on. That's all.
Okay.
Sit down.
Is that Ms. Lois? Good to see you. I think, I know her, she will help you understand what you said tonight as well, so that's good. Okay, so we have that. Anyone else speaking against it tonight? Seeing no one will close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the rezoning again and the cars on 60 days. The bill pertaining to original zoning.
Okay, so is that with planning board and staff recommendations as well?
And the addition of what our attorney said, the wording of the cars being removed in 30 days. Or 60 days, or it will be revoked. You wish to restate it, you got it.
I think so.
Okay, everybody understand the motion? It's by Mr. Floyd, I think I heard a second by Mr. Burdette. Yes. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no, and it carries. And we'll have to have a motion, the second reading at the next meeting, because we have a condition to it. So, Ms. Lois, there'll be a second reading. If you want to come back to that, you don't have to, but you can. As long as you understand the 60-day condition, okay?
And that's 2 weeks.
Yeah, and for 3 weeks, we'll have a second reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5, the planning board recommends approving an application by Bruce, Steve, and Lisa Howard, agent for George Wasden, to rezone 1.1 acres located at Virginia Street, Griffin Lake, from AR1 to R1, map number 235A, parcel number 3 in the 3rd district.
So this parcel is along the city and doesn't accommodate, it really wouldn't accommodate construction of a house given the setbacks for AR1 of 50 feet front. So there we go. This really is the best picture here. So the Howards are asking for it to be rezoned to R1, which has more favorable setbacks, 35 in front, 25 in the rear, which would leave about 40 feet for construction of a single home.
All right, very good. Anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning? I'll say the applicant time if there's no one speaking against it. Seeing no one, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and see if there's a motion from our board.
I'll make a motion to approve the staff and planning board recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Logan. Approve staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. We'll move to our second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Bruce Steed and Lisa Howard, agent for George Watson, to rezone 1.1 acres located on Virginia Street, Giffens Lake, from AR1 to R1, map number 235A, parcel number 3 in the 3rd district. Motion to approve second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading. Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer, to approve second reading. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. So you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7, the planning board recommends approving an application by New Hope Apostolic Holiness Church for a conditional use location at 525 Ardmore Oak Road to allow for a 0.643 acre cemetery, map number 263, parcel number 2 in the 3rd district.
So this was originally heard at the July planning board meeting, and it was tabled at that time because a adjacent property owner had concerns about
property lines or something.
they had concerns about the survey and the property lines. And so when it was heard at the August planning board meeting, no new survey had been produced by the neighbor. I did go out there, and I mean, at the invitation of the pastor, and I mean, the markers are well in on what most people would consider to be the church property. So we don't have any concerns about the survey at all. It looks perfectly consistent.
Go ahead, one second.
So we recommend approval of conditional use.
The public hearing on this item, if you want to speak for or against it. Want to speak against it?
I'd like to speak again.
Okay, come ahead.
I mean, I'm not against the cemetery, the survey that they did.
Come to the mic, sir, please give your name first.
My name's Robert Wargo, Jr. When I bought the property, there's an old fence between myself and the church. I assumed that was the property line. It lines up with a concrete marker in the front. You know, a property marker. All of a sudden, some stops showed up. Obviously, some surveying was going on. And where they put the cemetery is on the back behind the church. And the survey markers are over on my side of that existing fence. So, you know, that's a concern. So I get out my old plat of the survey that I got from the courthouse, and it says I'm supposed to have 132 feet between the concrete markers on the front of my property. And if I measure it with a tape measure, it's only 130 feet. And there is a giant pine tree.
Sir, let me, I interrupt you, but we can't address the civil action of the property line.
Right, I understand that.
If you have an objection to
I'm just giving you the background.
So I'm going to turn my attorney real quickly right here and say, is this something that we should table till they get a survey, or can we move forward with the zoning? And obviously, they got to do their own compliance with the lines.
We're approving a legal document with meets and bounds is what we're going by. Now, you know, we're not approving where a stake is.
No, I mean, that's civil, they can get that done themselves.
Yeah, I mean, if we have a plat that's recordable, and it is a private matter, I mean, you're looking at the zoning of that property. You're not establishing any property lines by any means.
So that's what we're addressing. I appreciate your concern, and you can get that resolved with the...
Right, and I'm trying my best.
Get your own surveyor.
I have called a bunch of them. I've got one that's been putting me off for a month. I called him yesterday morning, he told me it'd be 2 more weeks.
Well,
I mean, I've called a dozen of them. I don't know what's up with that profession, but,
we're gonna have to keep moving, because there's a lot to do now, because we can't address the public civil actions. So
I
I'm encouraging you to do that.
when I came to the first meeting with the planning board, they tabled it. Then they called me 3 days later and said, we're gonna move it to the next meeting. I came to the next meeting, they said it's still tabled, but you need to come to the commissioner's meeting.
Do you have an objection, if you guys can work out and make sure the meets and bounds are correct?
Well, I tried, I asked them,
No, I'm saying you have an objection to a graveyard.
No, I don't have any objection to the cemetery,
That's all we're gonna address tonight.
I don't want to lose what I thought I already had.
Well, that's gonna be a private matter, we can't.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, I just want to
Thank you, sir.
get it surveyed and let's figure out where it actually is. Because I don't think it's right now.
That'll be between you and the property owner. Okay?
Sir?
That'll be between you and the property owner, gets the property surveyed.
Okay, so what do I need to do? I mean, I know I need to get it surveyed.
I can't advise you on that.
Legal.
That's illegal advice, I can't advise you.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Are you going to approve it and then I'm going to go over there next week and they're going to be putting a fence up in the cemetery?
We're gonna approve it based on meets and bounds, and where they are, a survey will have to tell you that, okay? We don't address the surveys.
Tell me that again?
We're gonna approve it based on the meets and bounds of the document. Now, we don't know what it looks like on the property, the survey will have to tell you that. So if you question the survey they have, you need to get your own survey and challenge it in a private court.
Right, and I'm asking for time to do that. That's what I've been asking for.
That doesn't affect what we do here tonight.
So you're telling me
Yes, sir, I'm telling you, we can't.
that they can just go ahead and put it, you're going to approve it?
I'm not telling they can do anything on that property, I'm just saying we're approving a zoning, that's all we're approving.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to, see, why hasn't somebody already told me that? This is the 3rd meeting I've been to begging for time to get a surveyor.
Yeah, we're not approving where they can put it, that's between the surveyor and the legal side, we're just approving zoning, okay?
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. You don't need to address that, because we can't address that. Y'all just gotta work that out privately, as far as the meets and bounds, okay?
Okay, yes, sir.
Is anyone
So-
else? Sir?
You can speak.
Is it gonna be a time? My name is Robert Dixon with New Hope Apostolic Wilderness Church. Good evening, board. Is it gonna be a timeline for this man here
No,
to,
we don't control that.
get this
That's
here
part of the
together?
matter. We're gonna approve the zoning tonight if they approve it, and then it's between you guys to work out if it's in the right place. We don't control
Right.
that.
Okay, I
We don't
understand.
stop it, we don't control it, we don't say go forward. You gotta handle that with your own.
Well, we got our survey, so we just waiting on him.
Your own attorneys, yeah.
Okay,
Okay?
all right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone speaking against this tonight? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I just spoke again.
Huh?
I just spoke again.
No, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I was gonna say, I can speak some more again.
We've closed the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve the staff and board recommendation.
Motion, Mr. Delory, second, Mr. Kiefer, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Second reading, the consideration to approve the second reading, application by New Hope Apostolic Holiness Church for a conditional use location at 525 Ardmore Oakey Road to allow for a .643 acre cemetery map number 263, parcel number 2, 3rd District. A motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second. Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Burdette, to approve second reading. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Number 9, public hearing. Planning Board recommends approving an application by Johnny and Jennifer Wilcox Howard to rezone 1.74 acres at a 14.93 acre parcel located at 2315 U.S. Highway 119 from AR1 to AR2, map number 320, parcel number 50B in the 3rd District.
First, that was my mistake. Their Howard is not part of their name. It's Johnny and Jennifer Wilcox. So, I'm sorry.
What's that now?
Howard is not part of the name. It's Wilcox. That was my mistake.
Mr. Howard's not going to show up tonight. All right.
This is a very simple parcel split of 1.74 acres in the front of the larger parcel. It's marked up there. And it needs to be rezoned since less than 5 acres, so sure, that recommends
Anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning application? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing on this. You don't need to speak forward if you speak against it. Okay, have a motion?
Make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Letterman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Johnny and Jennifer Wilcox to rezone 1.74 acres out of 14.93 parcel located at 2315 US Highway 119 from AR1 to AR2, map number 320, parcel number 50B.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Floyd to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. You get it. Item number 11, the planning board recommends approving an application by Shell Paul for SD Clyde LLC to rezone 6.41 acres located on Courthouse Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 390, parcel number 2 in the 4th district.
So this rezoning is necessary as the parcels will be less than 5 acres. And so the owner wants to subdivide into 5 lots ultimately at the corner there. Staff has reviewed this and recommends approval.
Okay, well, public hearing, anyone speaking against it tonight? Anyone speaking against this rezoning? Seeing when I see no need to hear from the applicant, I'll close the public hearing and seek out a motion.
Motion to approve planning board and staff recommendation. Second.
Motion by Mr. Wilkers, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Shell Paul for SD Clyde LLC to rezone 6.41 acres located on Courthouse Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 390, parcel number 2 in the 4th district. Have a motion?
Make a motion to approve second reading. Second.
Motion by Mr. Wilkers, second Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries. Item number 13, in public hearing, the planning board recommends approving an application by Devin Deskins for a variance use located at 224 Long Bridge Road to allow for a camper as a temporary residence while the existing home is being remodeled, map number 427, parcel number 41 in the 4th district.
And this one, it is a standard request for variance to occupy camper during remodeling. It has been going on kind of a long time, and I did detail that in the staff report. I mean, going back to September of last year when the first permit was pulled, and then there have been inspection drop-ins. At this time, we know that the electrician has withdrawn, and no new electrician has been named on the electrical permit. And code enforcement did get involved, and the Deskins were brought to the magistrate court and fined. So with all this being said, and told to apply for the variance and legitimize their circumstances. And so with all that being said, we still are willing to recommend approval, but we have to put a time limit of 90 days from the date of approval for the camper to be occupied, no more than 90 days. And for the electrical permit to be renewed.
What's that?
And for the electrical permit to be renewed.
Okay. So because you're placing 2 conditions, were they a part of the report tonight that was presented to the public for the meeting? Was it 90 days?
That was at that's been the condition all along.
Oh, long, okay.
They will agree.
What was the
You know
question?
what?
They agree, we can get it done in 90 days, we want to talk about this in 90 days.
Well, it sounds like they had a lot longer than that. How long has it been out there? They're already not.
The application says it'll be completed 8/31, but I guess that's not the case.
No, we haven't had a renewal of the electrical permit, so we had no news from them.
So you're basically, I guess what I'm hearing is the measure courts give an order and fine, and you're saying as a board of commission, you'd like us to give them 60 days to complete this project.
90 days.
90 days.
That's 3 months, so.
Yeah. That we've already been working on for a long time.
electrician already.
Well,
It
that's.
depends on the extent of what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, which we can get into. So in 90 days, they'll still be out of compliance and they'll have issues. So that's the recommendation, okay, the board. Anyone speaking against this variance tonight? Just to see if the applicants here would like to say words for this variance tonight, you're welcome to come speak. Seeing and hearing no one, we'll close this hearing and I entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve planning board stipulations.
Second.
Planning board and staff.
Yes.
Okay. And staff, all right, Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. Now, understood that was not an added condition, so we can do the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Devin Deskins for a variance use located at 224 Long Ridge Road to allow for a camper as a temporary resident while the existing home is being remodeled at 427 parcel 41 in the 4th District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. Next item, number 15, the planning board recommends approving an application by Pola Engineering Group, agent for Thornton Alderman, to rezone 11.31 acres out of 156.51 acres, parcel located on Georgia Highway 21, Ralph Long Road, from AR1 to B3, map number 429, parcel number 6 in the 4th District.
So due to the scale of this project, we did submit it for review and development of regional impact, and that report came back favorably from the regional commission after they sought input from adjacent jurisdictions, and there was no negative comments received. And they found that it met the regional plan requirements and it was in general in the best interest of the region and the state. So staff have reviewed it, and we also are recommending approval of the water and sewer will be provided by Springfield, just to note that. A traffic study has been completed, and new right turn lanes are recommended for driveways 1 and 2, and I'll show you where they are. So this is Ron Station Road there. So that driveway, currently the speed limit is 55 miles per hour, so the traffic study did recommend that there be a, 360-foot long right turn lane there, as well as, of course, on Highway 21, but that's 55 and regulated by DOT. So that was added as a condition, and it's agreeable to the applicant under the current speed limit.
That's the conditions when we support it, that's very good. I want to expedite, see if there's anyone not speaking against this rezoning application. Seeing no one, I don't believe there's any need for the applicant to speak, but they'd like to, they could. All right, then we'll close this public hearing and I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the planning board and staff recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. The second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Chipola Engineering Group, agent for Barton Alderman, to rezone 11.31 acres out of a 156.51 acre parcel located at Georgia Highway 21 and Ralph Station Road from AR1 to B3, map number 429, parcel number 6 in the 4th District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Roach, to approve second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. And final item in the public hearing, the planning board recommends approving an application by, I should have practiced all these words tonight, BOC LLC for a variance located on Old Augusta Road to eliminate the 25-foot buffer along the western property line to maximize usable land and to install a drainage ditch, map number 477, parcel number 1.
All right, so there's currently, these are under common ownership, and currently there is operations here. The owner wants to be able to develop this parcel here, but not have the 25-foot buffer that would be required between the two, because there's extensive wetlands, and they want to be able to push the development over closer to their existing business. So this is the proposed development, and you see the wetlands here. In order to maximize the use of the land, they want to just push over and not have that 25-foot parcels.
They own both parcels?
They own both parcels, yes, or common ownership. There is not a plan to combine them, but the owner, I think, will come up and speak to that. And the staff has reviewed it and recommended approval.
I'm going to start again still with anyone here in opposition to this application for a variance. Anyone here in opposition to this application for a variance? Seeing no one, I'll see if the applicant is here and would like to speak to it.
Engineers got to get paid.
If you want to just see if there's any,
Only one that had to come up and speak.
if you want to just see if there's any questions from the board.
Yes, sir. Trey Wilkins with Thomas Nutton. As staff reported, that the Coveys own both parcels. They're in a long-term lease with the existing business, and they just want to do a little bit of site prep to get this other property available to put on the market.
Have y'all done an environmental impact study on what's going to happen to squirrels and everything else?
No, sir. We're in the process of getting a wetland impact permit, and
They just want to check.
they might require us to do that.
I'd ask at least one question.
Any other material questions to be asked? We have a motion. Oh, close public hearing, I'm sorry. Close public hearing, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve with planning board recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And it carries.
Thank you.
Consideration to approve the second reading of application by Gable LLC for a variance located on Old Custer Road to eliminate the required 25-foot buffer along the western property lines to maximize usable land and to install a drainage ditch, map number 477, parcel number 1 in the 5th district. Motion?
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Floyd to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it carries. That concludes our public hearings tonight. Yeah, I'm going to go to new business. I know we have some senators waiting. Tim, what we do is we have a meeting for executive session. So do you want to press on through this and then you want to stay down for a sandwich? Or do you want to take a 10-minute, 15-minute break to get your sandwich? I hate it for us. That's true. We got Christie's out here too. I'll share my sandwich with you. Well, let's press on. I don't think it's going to take very long. Let's see how we can knock this out.
Can we take the sandwiches home?
Yes.
I'm good.
If you take it home, I get it, yeah. My wife might have anything like that. All right, new business, reorganization, number 1. Consideration to approve reorganization of the Development Service Department. I know that the commissioners have reviewed all this, so I'm just going to ask you to keep the information brief as possible.
Okay, I've got about 13 slides. Briefly, with the retirement of our zoning administrator, we thought it was a good opportunity to take a look at the organization of the Development Services Department. Our recommendation is to upgrade the planner position to the zoning and planning manager, downgrade the zoning administrative position to a zoning technician, and that position will remain vacant until January 1st. We have a zoning position that was approved in the budget that we're going to fill immediately, and then move. And we're going to fill that with the receptionist and then backfill the receptionist position. And then we're going to move GIS under development services under the planning and zoning manager. And for the purposes of the meeting, Teresa will be handling the presentations for rezoning requests. Oh, and it has actual results in a cost savings on the budget.
Like that, and you've done a good job with the presentations tonight. Good. That's good.
I have a question. We're going to put on 2 more positions for GIS.
Well, we have one position that currently exists, and then we have a second position in GIS that was approved with the budget. So we're going to fill that position. That second position is primarily responsible for dealing with the splits. And so they'll be the primary contact with the assessor's office. The existing position, or Andy, is going to be responsible for essentially getting us caught up on not just the stuff involved with the spatial contract, but with all of the other areas on our GIS layers as
That
well.
was what I was concerned about. I know we spent money outsourcing the spatial, but in order to catch GIS up, I want to hire more people.
To keep up, mostly.
Just to keep up.
And because what had happened is we didn't have staff available enough to basically keep us up, and so we got buried. And so this is going to help us keep up, and we think by putting them in direct line of managerial line of their chief customer, which is development services, it'll keep them more on track.
Well, I know they were behind too. Was it spatial behind? Was it spatial behind as far as they were supposed to be caught up to a certain date?
They were behind because of us.
They were behind because of us.
Yeah, it was our fault.
Because we didn't get them the input at the time.
That's correct.
Right, which is why we had to extend the contract.
And one thing, this really came to light in our service delivery meetings, especially with the city of Lincoln, because with one person, they didn't want to leave that as a county-wide service because they were not getting service. So that was one thing that led to conversations with spatial. And like you and I talked about, we had to update our current model of what we had before we can do our updated modeling for future. So we had to get with spatial to catch us up with what's in the ground now. But going forward, if we truly want to consider a county-wide service, we definitely got to have more than one employee to make sure that stays on pace. Yeah.
How about that planning and zoning manager? How about if you call out a director? That manager sounds like big money or something.
Well, technically the director is a higher position than the
That's what I was
saying. Technically the director is a higher position than the manager, so.
Oh, well, director just sounds better. Whatever.
I'd have to pay her more money if I brought her up to the
The
director
key
level.
is these positions, I think the key is these positions fall under our director for development.
That's right.
Charles. And so he will be over all this as a director. He'll have his staff. Somebody will manage the zoning, somebody will be our technician, guide us through these meetings and so forth. So I like this good. Any other question, discussion? We have a motion for alternative one.
Motion for alternative one.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach for alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Any carried. Resolution, item number 2, a resolution, consideration to approve a resolution.
That's been removed.
I'm sorry, yeah,
That was removed.
I just saw my lead sign.
Number 3.
Thank you, sir. Item number 3, consideration to approve to accept a grant award from the Georgia Secretary of State, secure the vote, HAVA CARES Act.
This is just a portion of the CARES Act with regarding secure the vote, and this is for a total grant. These are things like hand sanitizers, masks, face masks, cleaning cloths, etc. The matching requirements are 1167.98 is going to come from the grant from the state, with Effingham County matching $129.78.
Any questions? Motion for alternative one.
Make motion to approve alternate number one. Second.
Motion by Mr. Roper, second by Mr. Burdette, to approve alternative number one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carries. Item number four, consideration to approve and ratify a submittal of an application to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, to receive a Phase 2 CARES Act provided relief fund payment.
Yes, staff is requesting to ratify and affirm the submittal of an application to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to receive Phase 2 CARES Act relief fund payment. This is related to EMS, and there's no match required.
Sounds good. Any questions? Motion for alternative number one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. It carries. Item number five, new business, consideration to approve a master agreement with BOM Operations for Professional Services.
Okay, Charlie George,
Wait 3 hours for this item.
yeah, County Engineer. This is a renewal of the master agreement that we have with the BOM that expired in June. So we're basically trying to catch up the paperwork on it. Most of the scope and things like that have been held. There is some changes in the engineering side to meet the budget numbers that we had established for this year's budget. And really this one is a combination of number 5, number 6, and number 7 regarding the two proposals, one for the civil engineering numbers and one for the operations, maintenance, and management services. Like I say, basically it's just a renewal of the master agreement that we have. The alternatives for the commission to consider is approve the proposed master services agreement and the associated fees as outlined. The civil engineering is $282,600 annually. It includes the subdivision plan reviews, the capital improvement projects program management, the annual CRS certifications and monthly progress reports, and attendance at county meetings. Any of the other civil engineering tasks that are asked by the county for EMM to do will be on hourly rates with submittal of proposals outlining the specific scopes and fees. And then the operations, maintenance and management services are $2.248 $800,000, I didn't say that quite right, with monthly payments of $187,000 from August 2020 to June 2021. Been speaking too long. As I said, the alternates for the commission to consider is to approve the proposed master services agreement, associated fees as outlined, do not approve the proposals as submitted, and the staff recommending approval of alternate one.
Just for me, and that's what the commissioners have, for points of clarity, the engineering side, has there been a change in the scope of service?
Yes, basically what we've done is streamlined what's in the basic scope so that they can focus on the plan reviews and these, and then things like the floodplain management, the MS4, and the watershed monitoring will be individual tasks that will be submitted as a proposal with a fee, and then we can approve as they
Those
go.
items were included in the fee last year,
Yes,
and they're not included in the fee this year.
correct.
All right, so the fee, I thought the price didn't drop a whole lot, went from 180 to like 187. So it went up $7,000, but we lost services?
No, that's the operations and maintenance and management part was the 187.
I'm sorry, I meant that. I meant the 282, I'm sorry, yeah. The 282, did it go up or down?
I think it's close to what it was. I think it went down a little bit.
It went down.
It was 325, yes.
Because of Charlie taking on additional responsibilities.
Yes, it was 325.
325, okay, so even though we left those three things off, we've lowered it about $40,000. Okay. Any other questions on that point? And just a point of clarity, point of clarity on, for me, on the O&M budget of $2.2 million roughly. Did that increase over the previous year?
Yes, we got, it's in the budget, they added an additional person to help with the operation standpoint.
Okay, so what was budgeted last year? And what's the proposal of this contract?
Kristen, EMM Operations. Last year, you were paying $181,500 a month. It goes to $187,400. And this is just for the water and sewer, which was budgeted because of the additional 5 lift stations. Roughly 17,390 feet of water line, plus Loop B would be 18,000 if you do reuse as an additional there, and new services in the water side for 252 residents. So it's just for one additional staff member, and it would go from $181,500 to $187,400 a month.
Okay. So we're about 72,000 annually, and we have additional responsibilities and needs. So really, when inflation increases, more of a meeting the increases.
Yeah, just for the demand. Yeah. And just to clarify one thing, the MS4 was separate last year. That was the only thing that was separated out last year, so that's another line item.
I thought that was separate.
It was. So that was not part of it. That's the only thing.
All right, very good. So the only couple items that changed and that came down 40,000 allowed for that. That answers my question. Any questions from the board? Any discussion? All right, do we have a motion to approve alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. DeLoach. Approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it carries. And next year, really are in line with this one we just did. Number 6, consideration to approve a task order request for EOM operations for civil engineering consulting scope services. If you don't need discussion, I'll entertain a motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1. Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by, I didn't hear, I'm sorry. By Mr. Kiefer for alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it is approved. Item number 7, consideration to approve amendment number 3 of an agreement between Effingham County EOM operations for public works operations management services. That's the 187
Yes.
contract. Motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1. Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it carries. Thank you. And we do appreciate EOM and the work. Thank you so much. Item number 8, consideration to approve change order number 1 with McClendon Enterprises related to the projects under local maintenance improvement grant, LMIG. This is 2020 projects. Mr. Charlie?
Okay, Charlie George, County Engineer again. If you recall, the LMIG 2020 allocation was $1,321,144.67 and had a 20% match by the county. We ordered a contract with McClendon Enterprises for the LMIG work at a total of $913,476.27, which left us a balance of $407,668.40 that we had to spend. We couldn't give it back and couldn't do anything else with it. So we, as county staff, came together and we looked at additional roads that would need repair that would fit this LMIG grant. And what we came up with was there's a small section of Church Street in Clio that's got a terrible surfacing problem now. So this would be resurfaced. A portion of Pitts Road in District 3 is basically an ash road that we're going to resurface where the homes are. And then Courthouse Road between Little McCall and Conifer is a stretch that's got significant rutting and deterioration of the pavement that we'll be able to resurface that. And then there's 2 roads, Laurel Hill and Griffin Lakes, that need pavement restriping. And the cost for this provided by the contractor is $400,312.31, which leaves a balance on our total number of $7,356.09, which we're recommending to be reserved for any contingencies that may occur during the work. The staff recommends approval of the change order for the $400,312.31. The alternatives would be approve the staff recommendation, Number 2 would be reject the change order recommendation, and we're recommending alternate 1.
Charlie, one quick question. Today at the transportation meeting, I questioned courthouse on the, I guess you call it the east side of Little McCall.
Yeah, that's in...
Wouldn't this cover that?
This is more, that's more of a maintenance. The paving guys wouldn't do this because it's basically what I saw after we talked today. It's in that little curve where they're running off the pavement.
Right.
These paving contractors really don't do that kind of work with their machines. So what?
Surfacing wouldn't fix that.
Right. So what the county manager and I have discussed is getting Public Works to handle that and get that fixed, as well as some that were on Bunyan Kessler as well.
If that would take care of it, remember those big trucks are coming out of that courthouse and they're going to be turning that corner.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting is I looked at that, and for them to turn that corner and hit that, they're crossing 2 opposite lanes that they shouldn't be crossing.
2 opposite lanes. If they're coming out of the courthouse and going to the right.
They're having to swing. They're having to swing so much that that's what's causing them to go over. But
The road is not a 90 degree.
no, it's not. It's close, but it's not quite.
It's not,
Yeah. But what happens is the paving contractors, they have a minimum width that they can pave with their machines, and that's like 2 feet. And so anytime we asked for an additional 1 foot on the side of a road, that takes a special effort to break that machine down into that 1 foot strip, and to break it down just on a curve like that, it's just a lot of handwork, and I think our Public Works can handle that a lot easier and quicker.
Where's Dixie Drive and Pitts Road located?
It's in Mr. Deloach's district. Pitts Road is up off of Clio Kildare, and Dixie Drive is off
Kildare and
Old Dixie Highway.
Old Dixie Highway, yes. And all these are actually in Mr. Deloach's district.
That's what I was going to say. Not courthouse.
Or not, I'm sorry, not courthouse.
Runs evenly across these districts. I want to see some numbers on how this money is being distributed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It should be in your packet. It's broken out. The actual LMIG work was, let's see, it's Friendship Road, Rankin Stillwell, Shawnee, Ralph Ron, and I can't remember the other one. That was in the original LMIG projects.
It's not.
Jay, these additional projects are around 400,000, is that what it is?
Yes.
So how are these determined as far as?
Well, what we did is we looked at what we had worked out on SPLOST, and there were some that were in significant deteriorated shape that didn't make the SPLOST cut. So that's how we kind of came to these next level.
The T-SPLOST?
The T-SPLOST, I'm sorry, the T-SPLOST.
We're assuming it's going to pass, is what I'm worried about. I've got roads that, they're becoming non-existent.
Right, right.
Well, the issue is that we couldn't put T-SPLOST items on the LMIG list, or then we'd have then we have additional funds that were not projects in the T-SPLOST list.
I got plenty extra.
What?
I got plenty of extra for bad roads.
I know, but I mean, one of the things we wanted to take in consideration is that the imbalance of the T-SPLOST list, and which is one of the reasons why courthouse, this section of Courthouse Road was on it. We were going to have to, whether or not we did it with LMIG, we probably would have had to come back to you on the Dixie Drive issue, because that road is in such horrendous shape, people can't get down it. So we would have to come up with funds to fix it. It's a dirt road.
We do have a large portion of our T-SPLOST in the southern end of the county.
What?
We do have a large portion of T-SPLOST in the southern end of the county.
Yes. Most of it, yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe what the solution would be is take this into consideration what the commissioners are asking, and as we look at the new big money, if there's anything we need to shift for that in 2021, it's just around the corner.
Well, yeah.
Leave that in.
We're in the process of...
I had an issue, well, I'm not going to discuss it. I just want the money evenly distributed.
Let me say this, EOM and I are in the process of working up the road list for the LMIG 2021. So if y'all have roads that are not covered in the T-SPLOST districts that you need to get addressed, let us know. I mean, that's the only way we know.
Counting on staff.
Yeah, we need staff to do this.
We will come up with, and we try to do that we couldn't do that on T-SPLOST. We just couldn't. Because the big ticket projects were primarily 2 districts. But LMIG, we did that on the previous LMIG list. That was originally approved. That was balanced between all the districts. And so when it comes on the LMIG list that's coming up for approval, which
we got to submit it by February.
Yeah, by February, that again would be balanced, not just on between districts, but taking consideration. By that point, we'll know if T-SPLOST is passed and taking care of the roads that in the districts that essentially were victim of that imbalance.
Yeah, and to clarify, Forrest, I wasn't meaning that we need you to just do that, but any y'all know of, give us that advice so we can include that in our review and our investigations.
How long do we have to decide on the balance of these funds, how they're used? Is there a time limitation? Or
it's up to, I think we have to use them by the end of the year.
So they have to be completely used by the end of this fiscal year or end of the
calendar.
And the other issue, calendar year, and the other issue is that we have to do this as a change order or we have to then go out and rebid just for the amount that's left over. And that would put, that process would put us in jeopardy of being able to get this approved by the end of the year. And so we're doing this as a change order because we honestly didn't expect to have funds remaining or we would have put more projects on the original bid list. But it came in so much more competitive than our estimates that we had to hurry up and find
roads that are not on the T-SPLOST list.
The roads that aren't on the T-SPLOST list.
But I don't know that we have to have this completely expended by the end of the year. I know the state looks at it.
That's always been my understanding, is it needs to be spent each calendar year.
I know that if you do not expend it, the state will look at how much the bid and so forth, but I don't know that if you in the process of spending it, you get a contract for it. Because I've got the other cities that I work with, I don't know that you, as long as it's contracted and you're spending it.
So is McClendon going to do all of this work?
It's going to be started.
It has to be awarded.
Yeah, and in the process. And usually then we just have to give a status update. They just want to make sure that you're getting close to that point.
You gotta have a contract.
So once, if you don't meet the December, then we would just have to send a letter that says this is what the status is
Exactly.
right
Why
now.
can't we wait till this vote and see how that turns out? And it might change a lot if we don't vote at T-SPLOST. Is it,
Well, the key with that one, because if you look at November something.
The only concern,
Contract in place. And if they jack twice that, because these guys are going to mobilize, they're going to be ready for the next year.
the only concern I would have with that is McClendon has done 90% of the work in LMIG already. So if we hold them too long, then we really can't change the
Oh,
work.
they're 90% complete now?
They roared on this
Immobilize,
stuff.
continue on?
yeah, if you immobilize, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah. But, I mean, if we...
Well, if we table to the next meeting, I mean...
Yeah, I think as long as we get this resolved by the end of October, as far as an award.
And just full disclosure, I'm not trying to get over on any other district, but all I can tell you, what I do is when I get these complaints and I'm saying, hey, anybody needs to do what I do, but out of this list, I've definitely got to get Dixie Drive done. That is literally an impassable road for school buses. And you literally, when you get over 2 inches of rain, you have to lock your truck and four-wheel drive to make it. But these are just roads that I've passed on to staff that I regularly get a lot of complaints on. And that's it. But I'm good with tabling this to next meeting if y'all have some that don't need to.
I said 2 over a day, what was it?
Throw them in. But Dixie Drive is definitely my worst one in my district.
Why don't we do this, we'll take the motion, if you make one to table this to the next meeting, to let the staff just look at, is the question the commissioners have about the balancing distribution, and just look at that with the T-Splosh and give us a little report that, hey, 80% of T-Splosh is going here, so 20, and then just get some information, and y'all provide the roads that you're interested in.
And I'm on board with what Jay said, you know, if it's a need, then it's got to take precedence.
I would say I probably don't have any particularly ash roads that are in dire need, such as not passable in around town. I mean, certainly there are roads that could get some attention, but none that are in dire need.
I was fortunate enough with a lot of mine taking care of this, but the majority of that was just because of our future development in Goshen Road. That was a big chunk where District 2 went.
Well, first, if we can get a motion to table.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table this item to our next meeting.
Sir.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve, to table to our next meeting, which I believe is October 6th,
Yes, sir.
2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And we'll table that until October 6th, and so that if the commission urged, we give the staff for the particular roads that they're looking at and opportunities, and just come back with a little report and see if we can approve either this or something very simple. Okay? Item number 9, consideration to approve a proposal from EOM Operations for watershed monitoring.
Okay, as it states, there's a proposal from EOM to do the required long-term monitoring for watershed protection plan. What that involves is water quality monitoring, annual reporting and certification, and macro invertebrate sample collection and habitat assessment. This is something they've done for us annually over the years, and this is just the proposal to get this done and keep it going.
And from my experience with other cities and governments, it looks like a good projected cost for us. You do certain things during the summer, during the wet seasons and all that, so we have to get this approved and started. Any questions related to this proposal? Motion for alternative 1.
Motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Deloach for alternative 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. It carries. Check on those little fishes in the creeks. Item number 10, consideration to approve a proposal from EOM Operations to perform municipal separate stormwater system MS4 related tasks to assure compliance.
Okay, as you know, Effingham County was designated a municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4, in 2015. This proposal allows EOM to assist the county with the completion of the tasks associated with the MS4 requirements. Again, this is something they've done every year for us. The proposal's for $21,300, and staff recommends approval of the alternate 1.
What's the municipal part of this?
It's just the term
That's just what
that
they
the
use.
federal government uses to describe it.
It's not saying we're doing something inside the municipality.
No, it's basically saying it's a local, yeah, it's just a local entity.
Which is a local government versus municipal. Okay, any questions? Motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lopez, second Mr. Kiefer for alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carries. Item number 11, consideration to approve a resolution to appoint Lisa Mott to the tax assessor's board.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and board members, we received a letter from Mr. Clint Michael, who is a member on the tax assessor board, stating his request or his resignation to that board. Mr. Michael represented the 1st District, relayed that information to Commissioner Floyd, and he has recommended that Ms. Lisa Mott be appointed to this board for that seat. According to our records, this term is set to expire on March 15th of 2022, and staff recommends approval.
Motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Any carries.
That'd be a good addition.
Yeah. Will be a good addition. Appointment number 12, amendment 12, appointment. Consideration to approve to appoint a voting delegate to participate in the ACCG 2021 policy agenda adoption. Deloach has been our candidate in the past.
He has been our candidate. Usually every year at the Legislative Leadership Conference, Mr. Loper has been our representative for a review of the policy agenda with ACCG.
When is that gonna be held?
Oh, they're not having it. They're not having it. It's just the information, and if you notice your emails, I've been sending you the emails as they've made changes to those updates. So you all can actually take a look at it, and if you have any recommendations for changes, I believe that deadline is the 22nd,
November 22nd?
September 22nd.
September 22nd.
Yes.
And we need a voting delegate.
We need a voting delegate
And
to speak on behalf of
Mr. Deloach was the voting delegate last year? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was you, Jamie, last year, because you didn't
Yes.
go. Yeah.
He was. Does anyone have
It was
any
an absence
objection
last year.
to Mr. Deloach remaining that voting delegate? We can all have input. Entertain a motion then? Motion by Mr.
Just make a motion to approve.
I didn't see a name on it.
Commissioner Deloach is our voting delegate.
Second.
Motion to approve Commissioner Deloach as our voting delegate by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. We know that bankers have more time than anybody else anyway, right?
That's right.
Item number 13, consideration to approve a revised purchase and sale contract for a property located at 216 Shady Oaks Drive, Dayton, to allow for an extension contract.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the Atlas Reservoir contract. We have applied for the brownfields and application with EPD, and I have discussed it with our environmental attorney. We expect that approval to be just within a matter of days or a week or two max. So we're requesting what effectively is a 30-day extension. We have it listed as a 45-day extension because technically it expired on August 31st. But we do have a closing scheduled for next week. Is that correct, Lee? If I'm right on that?
It can be, yes.
Oh, okay. However, as soon as we get the approval, we can close on the property. The attorney is comfortable that this will give us ample time to get that approval from EPD and approve closing the property.
Yeah, I'll leave you some if we leave on, make a comment after the about closing date before you possibly. Any question, discussion? Is this alternative one? Is that what it says? Okay, then motion to approve alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd, to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. All right, that should conclude our regular business. We go to staff reports.
I've got no report, Mr. Chairman. I think I've given you all updates on the various items.
Normally I want to give a report, but I'm ready.
What's that?
Normally I want an additional report, but I'm ready. Move on. Before we do this, I'm going to start out. I need a second command, is that how you refer to it? Did you want to talk to us tonight about the Halloween event and recommendations from my sheriff? We had a meeting this week. The sheriff called me and asked what we wanted to do with Halloween. I said, tell them to wear masks. He wanted me to meet with the police chiefs, and I invited Tim to come, and we just discussed some opportunities and options, and I asked him if he'd like to come share what he's thinking, and then we could discuss a little bit and maybe give some guidance to our community.
Well, the sheriff wasn't able to make it, so I'm stepping in for him. We're just concerned about Halloween that's going to be coming up the end of next month. And we know it's a good ways off, but we want to be prepared, and we want to make sure that the public knows where we stand and what we would like. We don't know if we should, and please chime in, I mean, we don't know if we should try to cancel it, have conditions, have guidelines, so forth, for, trick-or-treating. I know I wouldn't want my children to go out there from house to house, and, strangers, you just don't know, who has the COVID-19 or not, and that's our concern. We talked with the chairman, as well as the municipality, law enforcement from Lincoln, Springfield, and Guyton, and we're all kind of the same way. We're concerned, and wanted to bring it before the commissioners and see what their thoughts are on it. I've called Department of Public Health and to see what they would recommend, and they haven't got back with us yet. So we're kind of still waiting on that to see what the recommendation would be.
Let me jump in here, since I did meet with them to share what we discussed, and then let you build from there. One thing we hoped to have had is Department of Health to get back to us some guidelines for trick-or-treating that we could have had tonight, but they didn't get back to us. We don't have that.
Right.
The sentiments that I gathered, that I shared, and I think Tim shared, and the chiefs, is that we did not want to restrict our community from enjoying the trick-or-treating event. We felt like we're trying to move back to normalcy, and we'd like not to see that restricted. But we thought we might, as a board, and municipals as well, encourage them to not do the normal door-to-door at random. In other words, go to houses that you know, family, people that you fellowship with, that you're already in contact with. So we know that children want to get out. It's an outside event. We thought that GMI could help us give some recommended guidelines. No one's going to be policing or arresting if you don't do these things. But we think that this season, probably like in Westwood where I used to live, where they drop kids off and just go from house to house, it's a good chance to really promote the infection versus staying in your neighborhood, going to homes putting some guidelines. We suggested, like, if you don't want to participate because it's a danger for your home, if you're a vulnerable person, turn your light off. And that lets people know not to go to your door, because once they ring the doorbell, knock on the door, they've infected your doorways. So we could give them some general guidelines. Don't put bowls out for kids to just grab in their hands. And so I recommend, and we kind of discussed with chiefs, just put some guidelines, discourage just random trick-or-treating, but not restrict.
Yeah, stay in your neighborhood. I mean, I live over in Honey Ridge, and what people do is they set up at the end of the driveway. Kids don't even come up to the house. And if you're at the end of the driveway with candy, then you can drop it in the bag, and they can go stay on the sidewalk and keep going. But seldom do they come up to the door. If you're out there on the road or at the end of your driveway, they just walk down the road and start the neighborhood.
And that's what we hoped on. We had some recommendations that we could present to the board to kind of just support.
I can't support candy.
Oh, no, we decided, I shared that meeting, that I couldn't support council, but I could support some guidelines that encourage safe.
It should be the one day of the year that no one would have a problem wearing a mask.
Absolutely. We even talked about that.
Everybody that goes COVID-19.
But the second week in October, we'll start getting tons of phone calls from the public wanting to know if Halloween is canceled or not, because we do it every year, or what day is it going to be on it. It falls on the 31st, falls on Saturday this year, so it's going to be busy, Normally, it falls on a different day of the week. They want to know when we're going to,
I think some simple guidelines like to get lights on.
Right.
We just don't go randomly knock it on.
But we want to make sure we put that out to the public as in the appropriate time, and also everybody knows. Now, we're not going to go out arresting kids and parents and all this for not going by the guideline, but it's just a guideline. If we can get a lot of the folks to go with that, then we're good.
If you get a good many of them doing that, you can accomplish
Oh, absolutely.
So I think with the board's permission, I'm going to suggest that we haven't heard from Department of Health, which would be very important. And then with Gina's input, she's heard the comments of what we had at that meeting. If you like the guidelines of what I just shared with you, we discussed, I'm going to put it back to let Gina go ahead and put those together. If they can present those to us
Absolutely.
by October 6th meeting, that'll give us 3 weeks to have something in paper every week. These are the recommended guidelines for your local leaders. It'll be all leaders. It'll be the cities in the county.
And just to add to that, since this is a COVID-related communications expense, this should be completely reimbursable by FEMA. Well, not completely, but just they're, I think, 75% reimbursable by FEMA. If you want to go out there and do advertising and that sort of thing to get the word out. So.
And just as a point of information, and I know everybody's probably keeping numbers, but I keep up really closely on the health board, that in our community, we have 2% cases is our patient population. But that's cases, that's not hospitalizations. So it's
More symptomatic, right?
Or symptomatic, that's just 2% cases. So we may have 99.5% or 99% that are only, I'm going to say it's right, 0.5% to 1% that may be symptomatic, based on the 1,315 cases in the population estimated 65,000. And so you hate to restrict and conclude and not have a normalcy of trick or treat for 1% of the population. And even that 1%, most of them are not, 2% are not symptomatic. And then once again, the deaths, although each one is tragic, and I don't want to minimize that, we have 301% in Effingham County. 301% that is 21 deaths in our county. And you know, some of those we know, and we know there were some concerns already. We don't want to downplay that either. I just say that's why I feel like if we can go forward and put these guidelines, I recommend that's what we do. They get back to us October 6th, maybe we can put it on the agenda and do something public and get it to all the cities. Richard, we appreciate it.
Sounds
Our
good.
Sheriff's Department and you guys, what
Thank
you
you.
do, and for even bringing this up. I hadn't thought about it, so when they called me, I was glad that Sheriff and Police Departments constantly reviewing this. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Are y'all doing the roundup this year?
We do it every year.
Okay, so even.
And we will. We will. We've done it every year for the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years, and we'll do it again this year.
Is y'all doing social distancing wherever?
We've got just under 100, I think, in our county, and it's growing, you know.
What's the roundup?
Sex offenders.
Okay.
Yeah, we have them come in and they go through a class or whatever during trick-or-treat time to get them off the street.
Yeah, very good.
Very good, thank
Do
you.
something productive with them while you have them there.
Yeah, yeah.
Our sheriff and his staff are very cutting edge on them, always out front. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. That's why we're so safe in this community. All right. Any other staff for the report tonight?
Or do you want to discuss the mask for the buildings?
Yes, we did have a discussion among myself and Stephanie regarding that. Although we're not requiring masks in the community, we still want to encourage everyone to wear a mask when you go into a public place, like a store. We get commissioners and law enforcement staff, we get examples of doing that. But wondering if we should require masks when they come into our public buildings of our county to protect our staff, because once they're out, that's damaging. And like I just talked about today from City Manager of Springfield, who had COVID and was out almost 2 weeks and really, really ill. And so when you lose a manager or you lose a zoning person, your clerk or someone else, it seems like it'd be a wise thing to do, require them to wear a mask when they come into our building to deal with our staff, encourage our staff to put the mask on equally. Any discussion about that? Requiring masks? Yeah.
I wear mine everywhere I go.
So,
But they don't have to wear their mask at the workstation or?
no, this is not for our
This is
staff.
for
People coming in to deal with our staff to protect and not move the infection along. Absolutely require, if you come into this building, you will wear a mask. We provide, right? We have the mask to provide.
Correct.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And we did that, but then we had to reverse it after an opinion from ACCG that it violated the governor's executive order, but then the governor's one of his newest executive orders freed the counties or local governments from creating that restriction in their buildings.
So can we take a
Start
motion?
doing it then.
What's that?
We need to start doing it. They come in this building, make them wear a mask.
Okay.
Okay, so since we can legally require that, can we entertain a motion now for this?
Well, they don't have to go through the body scan when they get injected.
You would have to add it to the agenda
That's what I'm
first
doing.
before you can make a motion.
I think this is an emergency situation with COVID. I would suggest that we could add this tonight to the agenda.
If you don't want to do that, under the emergency ordinance, which is still in existence, I can implement that.
That's all we need.
Yeah,
So you can implement an emergency ordinance,
that's correct.
okay?
Put a sign on the door.
So we'll also.
Sign on the door, just like we used to.
Put the mask out there.
Get them to do it at Walmart too.
Yeah.
Do they have stock or they don't, that's it.
Walmart has a sign out there and let everybody know.
Here's what we got. So that's, it's covered, we can require it through our emergency ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna move on to any other staff reports? Okay, see if there's anything from the commission about it.
I'm good to go.
Since our last discussion with the GIS progress, are we making some headway with?
Yeah, they're working on, is communicating with the departments to come up with the certain procedures with regards.
I mean specifically, what was the company?
Oh, Spatial.
Spatial.
Yeah, they are, Spatial is working, they're active again, working with the departments on getting caught up. And I got just so everybody knows, I got a scope of, I thought we scanned an enormous amount of plans and documents, and I've got a lesson on how much we have unscanned by reviewing some of our storage facilities. So we're going to have a ways to go, but we're starting with the big subdivisions, and we should, you should start seeing the, and I'll actually arrange to have access to the commissioners on the Right Spot site, so you can actually see the product that's being completed.
And I know I keep harping on it, but I really feel that, the studies we've seen that the Board of Education shared with us about how much growth is coming, I just think it's going to be really key to have that modeling in place, so when other developments come up, I mean, we can say, we have the facts on our, if we put a new development off Goshen Road, our system, can handle that at current capacity and all the other questions that come along with that.
Well, we are, I'm in the, I think it's a combination of three things, and I'll try and be brief about it, but we're in the process of doing 3 studies, and I've sent out the transportation study to the cities about 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago, and asked for if they wanted any changes to it. They have not submitted any changes to it, so Charlie's been to go ahead to issue that RFP out for the transportation study. Also in the budget was the stormwater study. That's already been put out for RFP. And then we're going to be looking for a infrastructure study as well, which I'll be presenting to y'all because that was not in the budget. And then we can actually then go back and update the comprehensive plan with all that data.
Okay. We've got to have that information, that's very vague. We have a lot of things that we've been talking about with different folks.
I worked on the GIS side a little bit. The layers load pretty well.
Which one? The public one?
The public one.
Yeah, the one that Spatial's working on for us is even better. And so, but mostly that's going to be internal. But our internal folks need those tools, and they don't have them right now.
Tim, SDS agreement. The last SDS several months ago, was that a councilman from the city called me. I said, it's in the court, I believe, Renton, is that correct? They had some language concerns, and he asked them and Brett, are they going to bring more value?
Yeah, I'll reach out to them, because they were supposed to come back to us with their worry that they were looking for on 2 items. I have not heard from them, so I'll reach out to them tomorrow and arrange another meeting.
Is that?
And we can arrange another meeting, maybe with a deadline on it, so we can just wrap this up.
It'll be December 31st, we won't have a renewed agreement, so I would encourage them, we don't want to get into a non-compliance where we don't happen, because we just did one.
But they did get the fire agreement, and so I have to, and I'll check the status of that.
Okay, very good.
The only thing I have is just an update on Interpol River Belford. We finally have the community settled down. They put a muffler system on a piece of, it's a fan exhaust system, so tight. Everybody's happy. They don't hear the plant running all the time. So that was, he was about to wear, there's something about wearing him out over there. But I think we got that resolved finally.
I know you have that laid back retirement look to you, right?
I actually went down and had a cup of coffee with Mr. Lane just so I could hear that noise. I never heard it. He didn't hear it anymore, so he's happy.
That's good. Any other comments or need for any other discussion, no executive session? Hearing nothing, we have no executive minutes to approve, so I'm going to take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Burrett to adjourn this meeting. All those say aye.